It's time for a non-conference matchup between the UMass Boston Beacons and the Salem State Vikings. Bill Spaulding, glad to be with you here on the Beacons Broadcast Network. UMass Boston 12-7, Salem State 12-11. Should be a good one between two teams that both qualified for the NCAA tournament last year. UMass Boston an at-large bid after a regular season Little East Conference championship. Salem State won the MASCAC last season, and both teams won 2 games in their NCAA tournament regionals as well. You get that clash of good pitching against good hitting. The Beacons, one of the top pitching teams in the Little East Conference with a team ERA of 3.28. Going up against one of the best hitting teams in the MASCAC, the Salem State Vikings have a team batting average of 328 and average 7.7 runs per game. Let's take a look at the series history. It's a series that has been dominated historically by Salem State, and they lead the series 28-11-1. But UMass Boston's won the last 2. That's the first time in 16 years. Salem State won a pitcher's duel back in 2015. Last year, UMass Boston won twice, including a 7-5 win in their last meeting almost a year ago to the day. A year ago from tomorrow, April 12, 2016. In those 2 wins last year for the Beacons, Bobby Trementozzi was just incredible. 6 1/3 innings pitched. He picked up both wins. He only gave up 1 earned run. Here are the 4 things you need to know heading into today's game. Again, a matchup between the Beacons at 12-7 and Salem State at 12-11. UMass Boston has never won 3 consecutive games against the Vikings, so a chance to make a little bit of Beacon baseball history today. Both teams were picked as the preseason favorites for their respective conferences, and both teams are off to good starts with 3-1 conference records. UMass Boston is starting a stretch of 10 games in 12 days, so it's going to be busy over the next couple of weeks, and it'll test the pitching depth, which means the Beacons want to get Fernando Burgos, their starter today, pretty deep into this one. Salem State is riding a 3-game win streak. In those 3 wins, 1 against Bridgewater State and the last 2 against MCLA, they have outscored their opponents 36-3. This is a team that can really, really slug it. Our player to watch today for UMass Boston is Kyle Boudrias. Boudrias, the third baseman for the Beacons, batting in the 3-hole, hitting at .375. He was already an all-conference player last year. Right now he's in the midst of an 8-game hit streak where he's batting close to .475. He has 7 RBIs and 5 doubles in those 8 games. In his career, he's a .346 hitter, 39 career RBIs, good gap-to-gap hitter, and at Monin Park, it's a field that favors gap-to-gap hitters, those big gaps, especially in right center field, where you can run for miles if you rip it down that way. Again, UMass Boston 12-7 on the season, Salem State 12-11. Both these teams have had a couple of injuries that have led some key players to not being in the lineup for UMass Boston. That includes the shortstop, Dan Murphy, who was, of course, so tremendous last year. Dave Murphy has played in 11 games this season. He is not in the lineup today. For Salem State, they'll today play without their great catcher, Tegan Malionik, who hits at .306 and is also a great defensive catcher. Instead, Maddox Fisher will make the start behind the plate today for Salem State. And this pitching matchup today between Fernando Burgos for the Beacons, who makes his 5th start of this season, a 2-1 record, and an ERA just above 4. See the 4.56 ERA in 25 2/3 innings pitched with a 2-1 record. Meanwhile, Salem State starts a guy who's been their closer for most of this season, Tim Woods. He's pitched in 9 games with a 4.76 ERA. We'll take a break. When we come back with the national anthem, then we'll give you the starting lineups, and we'll have first pitch between the Beacons and the Vikings here on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
Paris changed my life, and I got there through UMass. Those very specific seminal moments in Paris, the subway. A man in a tuxedo walked in, and a woman in a long gown, and it was stunning. It all hit me. It was like a lightning bolt. There was this world of beauty and style that I wanted to be a part of. That was the beginning of the journey, and that all came through the University of Massachusetts, and that was really a key moment for me. That's one of those moments you never forget.
Back in Monin Park on a record warm day in Boston. It was 84 in the middle of the day, temperature now in the 70s, and the wind is just howling out to dead center field. So if you get the ball up in the air today, it could do some serious damage. Let's run you through the starting lineups. We'll start with Salem State. The Vikings, again, 12-11 on the season, and they hit .328 as a team. Just look at those batting averages in this lineup today. 6 of the 9 hit better than 300, with Alex Toomey, the leadoff batter, a real speed threat up top. You know you got a deep lineup when your 7-hole hitter hits at 395. So it's Toomey, Deloury, Connors, White, Kasper, Day, Greene, Galimi, and Maddox Fisher, who makes just his 5th start of the season at the catcher's position for Salem State. We'll look at the Beacons starting lineup as well. The batting order for UMass Boston is started with a freshman, Danny Brown. The second baseman leads things off. Dan Mantoni was red hot over the weekend. He's the DH. We just talked about Kyle Boudrias on that 8-game hit streak. It's been a huge season for Chris Fowler, taking a big step forward in his senior year. Nick Herzog, followed by Luke Nagle, who makes his first ever start in the outfield. Nagle playing left today. Then the captain, Anthony Searles, Sal Frascino, and the shortstop, Charlie Hughie. Mentioned the pitcher for the Beacons is Fernando Burgos, 2-1 this season. 25 2/3 innings pitched for Burgos. His ERA this season is sitting at 4.56. Burgos, a sophomore, had a really strong freshman season as well. Meanwhile, the starting pitcher for Salem State is Tim Woods, senior from Wilmington, Massachusetts. He's been the closer this season, 9-0 record. Rather, 9 games, an 0-0 record. He has 2 saves to his name, no wins or losses. He's pitched about 11 2/3 innings, is a 4.76 ERA, 12 hits, 6 earned runs, 3 walks. He has struck out 21 in just 11 2/3 innings. So he has some nasty swing and miss stuff when he's throwing strikes. UMass Boston looking for a 3rd consecutive win after sweeping Rhode Island College in Little East play over the weekend. A 5-1 win followed by a 7-4 win with 4 runs in the last inning for the Beacons. Meanwhile, Salem State comes in after back-to-back 11-1 wins over MCLA on Sunday. In those games, they combined for 27 hits, a team that just slugs the ball. They hit .328 on the season, and they average almost 8 runs a game. We'll take another break. When we come back, we'll have first pitch between the Beacons and the Vikings here on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
Number 7, Dan Mantoni. Hitting third, the third baseman, number 15, Kyle Boudrias. In the cleanup spot. Nagle, hitting 7th and catching for your Beacons, number 13, Anthony Searles. Hitting 8th and playing center field, number 20, Sal Frascino. And hitting 9th, the shortstop, number 28, Charlie Hughie. On the mound for your Beacons, a sophomore, number 17, Fernando Burgos. The Beacons are coached by Brendan Igerbo in his 13th season. He's assisted by Kevin Kelly, Bobby Barrett, Dan Gamble, Ryan McDermott, and Sean Callahan. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you can please rise and take off your caps for the playing of our national anthem.
Set for baseball at Moden Park on a beautiful evening in Boston. Temperature still in the 70s, though the wind is howling off the water out towards center and left. Again, in batting practice, we saw guys launching balls well over the baby monster here at Monin Park. Bill Spalding, glad to be with you on the Beacons Broadcast Network and LittleEast.tv. Again, the starting pitcher for UMass Boston against Salem State is Fernando Burgos, sophomore, 5'9", 160-pounder from Hyde Park, Massachusetts. Went to O'Brien High School in the Boston City League. Burgos this season in 5 games, 4 starts, a 2-1 record, a 4.56 ERA. He's pitched 25 2/3 innings. He's given up just 23 hits. He has walked 16 and struck out 21. The batting order for Salem State looks like this. Alex Toomey is the right fielder. Andrew Deloury is the center fielder, batting second. He's followed by Dan Connors, a .359 hitter, the third baseman. He hits third. In left field, Joe White, a .361 hitter, is your cleanup man. In the 5-hole, Joe Kasper, a senior first baseman. He's followed in the 6-hole by Nick Day, hitting at .256 on the season, the DH. Brendan Greene, the second baseman, a sophomore who hits at .395 to lead the team, bats 7th. Tyler Galimi, the shortstop, hits 8th. And Maddox Fisher, the catcher, makes his 4th start of the season. He is 5 for 14 this year. Joined now by Seth Orensky as well. Seth, this should be a good clash of styles. The Beacons have gotten by on their pitching staff this season. Meanwhile, Salem State's a team that really mashes the baseball.
Well, this is a really good matchup for Fernando Burgos, especially because he's a sinker ball pitcher. So when you have a guy who throws low in the zone, normally going to have a little bit more success against the team that mashes, is going to look to hit a lot of extra base hits, especially with the wind blowing out for the majority of today. We're going to see some long balls. The Beacons hope that he at least can keep it in the park. Plus, with the Beacons taking on Southern Maine next week and the week after, midweek on Tuesdays, that could certainly be a good test for Burgos, as Southern Maine is typically the top hitting team in the conference and normally one of the better hitting teams in the country.
Here's the right fielder, Alex Toomey, to lead things off. Toomey, a .294 hitter with 1 home run and 11 RBIs. And the first pitch is a called strike. First pitch at 7 o'clock on the nose with the temperature still in the 70s in Boston.
Well, that's what happens when the umpires get it started nice and early. We actually hit that start time on the dot.
Pitch a little bit low from Burgos to Toomey, a junior from Beverly, Massachusetts. Majority of this Salem State roster is from the North Shore of Massachusetts.
Yeah, I was talking to the Beacons hitting coach, Sean Callahan. This Salem State team recruits a lot of players who can hit the ball extremely well, who maybe struggled a little bit academically, but they try to produce them, help them out academically, and then use that talent from high school, as this team has consistently been one of the better hitting teams in the MASCAC.
And it starts with a line drive base hit for Alex Toomey on a 1-2 count. He takes Burgos' breaking ball into center. Leadoff runner on for Salem State. You know you're a good hitting team when you're consistently coming through on 2 strikes and showing the discipline to wait back on a breaking ball.
Well, and you know you're a good hitting team when you have just 5 sacrifice bunts on the season. This normally you get a leadoff base runner against a good pitcher. You're thinking maybe, hey, we put down a bunt. That's not going to be the case with Andrew Deloury here. This team doesn't play a lot of small ball. They don't steal all that frequently. We're going to see them just try to hit the ball as far and as hard as they can all night long.
First pitch, a called strike to Deloury, who does not have a sacrifice this entire season. The senior is a .250 hitter. He also has 2 home runs and 10 RBIs. Lowest average in the starting lineup today for Salem State, but one of their bigger power threats. Burgos hits the corner, working knee level, and he's up in the count 0-2.
That was a big point of emphasis for UMass Boston. Pitch ahead of this Salem State team. Salem State does a really nice job. When they know a fastball is coming, when they're heading the count, they're going to mash the ball. If you can keep them off balance a little bit, you can have more success.
Burgos checks the base runner at first, and Toomey's back in safely. Just 1 stolen base for the leadoff man, Alex Toomey, so far this season. And of course, Beacons have a rock-solid defensive catcher behind the plate, and Anthony Searles.
That certainly helps. Searles has had a number of pickoffs at first base over the past couple of weeks, and he's had a couple throwouts at second as well, making up for some of his liabilities during this recent drought at the plate when he's off on the offensive side. Also helps to have a guy who's been there for 4 years, who's seen a lot of these hitters, at least the upperclassmen, multiple times. Gives you an advantage with a younger pitcher like Burgos.
0-2. Swing and a miss. Good breaking ball. Searles snaps back to first, and they have Toomey picked off. Fowler runs it down to the shortstop, Hughie. It's a strike him out, throw him out.
I love when Anthony makes me look smart. That was a really strong play from Searles there. First off, that ball bounced up there on a ball that was well out of position, so it easily could have gotten back to the stop. Instead, he made the nice pick and then was able to catch the runner well off the base. A huge 2 outs there. So now you bring up the meat of this lineup that wants to hit with multiple runners on base.
Yeah, this lineup's basically all meat. They have a .395 hitter in the 7-hole. First pitch to Connors outside for ball 1. Dan Connors, senior from Danvers, 6'4", 210 pounds. Big hulking third baseman, tallest player on the roster.
Yeah, this is a guy who you want to go down and in or get him to stretch outside the zone. Nothing where he can extend those hands and potentially hit one over the monster.
Fernando Burgos, 2-1 on this season. He's pitched an average of 5 innings a start, 25 2/3 innings in his 5 appearances this season. This is hit hard left side and through the hole past the diving Hughie. Second hit of the first inning for Salem State.
And instead of having runners on first and second with 1 down, maybe first and third if they tested the arm of Nagle out there and left. Just the 1 runner on base, and that'll make it a little bit more difficult to score unless they can hit a ball really deep into the corner.
So Connors on first, and Joe White, the left fielder, steps in. White's a .361 hitter, and the first left-hander in this batting order. One of 3 lefties in the order against the right-handed pitcher Burgos. Breaking ball, Searles smothers it again. Now Burgos has kept the ball down for the most part so far, which is his strength and important against a good hitting team.
Yeah, the first 2 batters he faced, he got that first pitch strike, which gives you such an advantage against good hitters like Salem. He's missed on the last 2, gave up the hit there with 2 down, and now he gets back into the count. You really don't want to see a lot of those 2-1, 3-1 counts, because then they're going to sit on that fastball looking to drive it. And especially last week when it was very cold last Wednesday against Suffolk, he really struggled with his control in a 3-1 loss to the Rams.
1-1. That's a strike on the outside corner. Fernando Burgos last year had a great freshman season, and it was because of pitches like that. He was always around the plate, and he was always hitting the outside corner.
As a hitter, what are you supposed to do with that? The best you can do is hit that softly out to left field, maybe for a single. There's not much you can do in terms of driving it.
Running fastball slips outside. 2-ball, 2-strike count with 2 down, top of the first. UMass Boston looking for its 3rd consecutive win against Salem State. That would be a first for the program.
Well, it's just a rarity to have this many home games. This would be 2 of the past 3.
Ground ball slowly hit to short. Hughie charges, goes the long way, and beats the base runner White with a strong throw. So Fernando Burgos works around 2 hits thanks to some defense from his catcher Anthony Searles and his shortstop Charlie Hughie. We head to the bottom of the first with the score 0-0.
Vikings in the top of the first inning, no runs on 2 hits. There were no UMass Boston Beacons errors and
Celebrate the soggy shoes and the slow starts. Celebrate the lessons learned along the way. These are the wins. Not the shiny, nail-biting kind. These are the last a lifetime kind.
Tim Woods is the starting pitcher for Salem State. He's been the closer most of this season. This is his first start in his 10th game, an 0-0 record, a 4.76 ERA. He does have 2 saves, pitched 11 2/3 innings, given up 12 hits, 6 runs. And how about this? He has struck out 21 in 11 2/3 innings. So that's some nasty swing and miss stuff here for Woods, a senior from Wilmington, Massachusetts. He'll face a Beacons lineup that looks like this. Danny Brown is the leadoff batter for UMass Boston, followed by Dan Mantoni. Kyle Boudrias is the 3rd baseman. Chris Fowler plays first base, hits 4th. Nick Herzog, the right fielder, bats 5th. Then it's Luke Nagle playing left field, hitting 6th. See Anthony Searles there in the 7th spot. Sal Frascino, the center fielder, hitting 8th. And Charlie Hughey, the shortstop, rounding out the order. The 2, 3, 4 spots in the Beacons order have been red hot. Boudrias on that 8-game hit streak. Mantoni had a huge weekend in that doubleheader win against Rhode Island College, both on the mound and with the bat.
Yeah, it's good to see Dan Mantoni starting to hit a little bit better, but the guy to watch in this Beacons lineup has been Chris Fowler. He has just been on fire. I think the hit streak's reached 14 games, a 9-game RBI streak, and a guy who couldn't get into the starting lineup last year, even when the starting first baseman went down with an injury, Luke Nagle, because Charlie Hughey just hit a little bit better than him, played a little bit better defense. Instead, this year he's been the Beacons' top hitter overall, and the Beacons hope to just get him up to the plate with runners on base because he has been dominant the past week and a half.
Freshman Danny Brown fouls back the first pitch from Woods, a big strikeout pitcher. He's averaging almost 2 strikeouts per inning, 21 Ks in 11 innings. 0-1 to Brown, slides outside, and you can see Woods has a sizzling fastball.
But again, that plays into the Beacons' strengths. They're a team that hits guys who pitch hard. The harder they pitch, typically the Beacons hit a little bit better. They struggle when it's all soft stuff because they just don't have the patience to hold off.
Brown takes a called strike on the outside corner. Freshman Danny Brown, 3 for 19 this season. He's out of Hudson, New Hampshire.
He's in a bit of a tough spot right now. That pitch was running off the corner. The home plate umpire took a long look and gave Woods the benefit of the call.
Oh, look at that slider, and Brown knew it. Caught looking. Strikeout number 22 this season for Tim Woods. So one down. Here comes Dan Mantoni, the designated hitter. Mantoni had a good weekend for UMass Boston against Rhode Island College, including a 7 1/3 inning pitching performance where he gave up just 1 run. Mantoni takes inside for a ball. He's a .310 hitter, a home run and 14 RBIs this season. Mantoni is senior from Northbridge, Massachusetts, out of Hopedale Regional. Hit 6 home runs last season. 1-0, pop foul. Beacons haven't had huge power numbers yet this year, Seth, but tonight's a night that could possibly help. You first off have the warm weather and the light air. Secondly, you got the wind blowing straight out today.
Yeah, it's a rarity. The wind has been blowing in and hard for most of this season. This is by far the nicest day we've had at Monin.
Mantoni swings to the slider. Good change of speed so far for Tim Woods.
You can see why this guy is a pretty effective closer between the hard fastball and the good breaking stuff. The question is, does he have the ability to go multiple innings and keep this stuff up?
Mantoni fouls one back. That will be a question for Woods, who has only pitched 11 2/3 innings in 9 games. That means most outings he's just out there for 3 outs.
We saw Bobby Tramandosi come on, I believe it wasn't against Salem, but he threw 4 or 5 innings in a midweek game last year as the Beacons' 8th inning guy. Sometimes when you have this many games, you're forced to pitch a little bit further into games than you would like.
Mantoni shoots it past a diving Brendan Greene for the Beacons' first hit of the day, and a 1-out base runner in the bottom of the first.
Yeah, good effort from Greene. That ball just caught him underneath the arm, maybe over diving on that particular play, but that ball was scorched hard off the turf. And it's a good thing to see Mantoni go the opposite way today, not trying to do too much there ahead of the Beacons' 2 big left-handers.
Yeah, here's Kyle Boudrias hitting at .375 and riding an 8-game hit streak. In that 8-game hit streak, he has 7 RBIs and 5 doubles.
The Beacons really missed him down in Florida. He suffered a hamstring injury, missed most of the trip. When you're not hitting well as a team, it helps to get back one of your top 2 hitters from a year ago, and he's just such a calm, even-keeled 3-0 hitter.
Woods lost that one, so a wild pitch sends Mantoni into scoring position as UMass Boston looks to draw first blood on this Tuesday night.
And that's even bigger because Boudrias doesn't run all that well, and neither is Fowler, the next 2 batters, so it takes out the possibility of the double play.
Lefty on lefty matchup. Woods working against Boudrias. That's a called strike. He's hit that outside corner a couple of times.
Yeah, it seems to be a little bit wide on that far side to lefties. We have a pretty good angle right behind home plate, and it looks like he's giving maybe an extra inch or 2 on that outside pitch to the left-handed hitters.
1-1. Slider, pop foul, it's 1-2. Well, if the strike zone stays consistent, you'd say that's really an advantage for Fernando Burgos, who's more of a finesse pitcher and needs those corners.
Oh, for sure. And Salem State, sensing that maybe they're getting a little bit extra, tried to go back to that same spot. It was left up a little bit, but Boudrias couldn't put it in play.
1-2 to Boudrias with the red-hot Chris Fowler waiting on deck. Boudrias fists it foul. That fastball ran in.
And Boudrias and Fowler having a little bit of conversation. Anytime you can get any tips from the guys ahead of you, this time it was Boudrias actually offering it up to the guy behind him, trying to figure out Woods early on here as the Beacons look to get something going. It's the starter before going into the pen.
Boudrias, a sophomore from Medford, played at Arlington Catholic. 1-2. Hits it hard up the middle. The shortstop can't get there. It's under Galimi's glove. Mantoni scores. That should go as a single.
We're going to go the other way, Bill. That ball was tough, but at the same point, ran right through it, looking up the whole way, never got down on the ball.
Whew. You guys are
here. We'll continue looking down the line and see if anyone has a big argument, but I looked up, and we had 3 out of 5 going with the air.
Okay. Well, that takes the RBI away from Kyle Boudrias. He's on first. Mantoni scores. 1 down, and Chris Fowler's the batter. Fowler, left-handed bats, hits safely in 15 straight, and he drills this one center field. Wind starting to take it as Deloury goes back, and it's over his head. Boudrias around third. He's on his way home. Here comes the relay from Greene. Up the line. Boudrias scores.
And Fowler was very, very lucky that there was no one coming in behind him because he was halfway between second and third and would have been thrown out if there was anyone within 20 feet of second base. But Chris Fowler keeps it going. I believe it's now 15 straight games, 10 games in a row with an RBI. When you're going good, sometimes you get breaks like that. The wind took that one a little bit further, and the center fielder didn't get a great read. Deloury out there, first step has to be back on a day like today. Came in a little bit, and it cost him.
Yeah, you saw he thought he was under it, and then the wind just kept on carrying it. A double for Fowler. The Beacons lead 2-0. Nick Herzog's the batter, and he takes inside for ball 1. 2 runs, 2 hits, and an error already for the Beacons here in this first inning. Mantoni and Boudrias have scored. Herzog in the 5 spot, hitting at .267 with a homer and 14 RBIs. Calls time. Oh, and that's not great for Woods, who tried to stop his pitch, and it sailed away. That can sometimes be a little bit dangerous when you slow yourself down there at the end.
Yeah, you never want to see that as a coach. You're just worried about your player there potentially hurting their arm. But, Bill, just think back. That wild pitch when Mantoni was on first base totally affects this inning. If that ball was hit sharply up the middle by Boudrias, potential for 2, maybe he doesn't have his head up, just making sure he gets the first out at second, causing this big inning thus far.
That's a strike. Well, and on top of that, he would have been in double play depth, which means he would have been positioned closer to second, so the shortstop Galimi wouldn't have had to range so far to his left where he was reaching for that ground ball.
Yeah, so it's just the little things that can cause the difference between a potential 1-2-3 inning, like the Beacons nearly got in the top of the first thanks to a pickoff at first base versus a 2-run inning, and the Beacons still have a chance to put up an even bigger crooked number.
Ball and a strike to Herzog. Slides to the outside part of the plate and outside for ball 2.
Herzog's a guy who has shown a little bit of versatility in the Beacons lineup. They had him batting leadoff for a little bit when he was hitting really well coming out of Florida. He's moved down to 8. Now they like his pop a little bit, moving him up ahead of some guys who struggled in the middle of the order.
It's out of Riverhead, New York. Swings through this one, a big swing. 2-ball, 2-strike count. Yeah, the Beacons looking for that pop. They've hit 8 home runs this season. They've only given up 4, which is a really impressive number for that pitching staff.
Yeah, this pitching staff deserves a better record than 12-7. The offense and defense has cost them in a couple of these games, but they've pitched, I haven't looked at all the New England numbers, but probably as well as anyone. A team ERA at 3, maybe even low 3s on the season.
3.28 right now.
Yeah, 3.28, and outside of some walk issues with Matt Tully and Fernando Burgos, I mean, those two should have sparkling ERAs if they had a little bit better control thus far this year. Brian Kaufman, a guy who got the win on Saturday's riding a 13-plus inning scoreless streak.
2-2 to Herzog, lined up the middle. That's a base hit. Fowler got a great read, and he's on his way around third. The throw way offline. It's an RBI single for Nick Herzog. 3-0 UMass Boston.
This is the kind of inning you want. Good hitting, smart hitting. Herzog takes the ball right back up the middle. A great read by Fowler. He's not a guy who's that fast. But if you can help yourself, getting off well, knew that ball was getting down. It allows Bobby Barrett, the third base coach, to send him the whole way. And there was no way the center fielder Deloury was going to be able to throw him out.
Luke Nagle makes the start today for the Beacons. He's just 2 for 9 on the season. It's the senior's first career start in the outfield today.
Nagle was a guy the Beacons wanted to get a start. He's worked so hard this year. You can't take Fowler out of the lineup. You can't take Mantoni out of the lineup, so you have to find a spot for him. Former JUCO All-American who missed most of last year was the starting first baseman due to some arm injuries, getting a rare start and a couple of looks today against the lefty Woods. Not the guy the Beacons thought they'd be facing. They thought they would face one of the normal midweek starters, not the closer. But as we spoke about, don't think we're going to see Tim Woods for a second, third, fourth time around the lineup today.
Especially now, already 3 runs home and 3 hits, and with a more generous official score, could have already given up 4 hits. He does have Herzog picked here. Oh, it's out. Herzog almost got in there at the end as he just kept on running.
Now, that's the second runner we've already seen picked off today. Haven't seen the best base running, but that was a really nice job there by Woods to go over it, a good, strong throw. I think he might have gotten in, but we'll go with the umpire, who is a lot closer than either of us to that play.
Nagle fouls one back. It's 1-2. Bases empty, 2 down. 3 runs home for UMass Boston in the bottom of the first. When you're playing a team that hits the way Salem State does, you need to keep pushing runners across quickly as possible. Oh, that came off the noggin of Nagle. Fortunately, it was a breaking ball, and he looks to be A-OK.
Yeah, I'd love to see that one again. I hope that it caught actually the top of the upper back there, maybe the lower neck instead of the head. But either way, he shook it off right away. Yesterday, it was Buster Posey who got hit by a fastball, the very talented catcher for the Giants, and immediately went down and was removed from the game. But Nagle, who's very eager to show that he can succeed out there in left, is not going to check out.
Anthony Searles steps in and foul tips one back. Searles could use a good game. He's hitting at 136. Been slumping lately.
Yeah, he hasn't hit well. He has done a better job getting on base. He's worked a decent amount of walks, and as a catcher, you'd hope that he'd have a pretty good eye. But when he does get the ball and drives it, he has been hitting a fair amount of extra base hits. Hit the walk-off against Suffolk in Game 1 of our 2-day doubleheader, and hopefully he can dig himself out. A second-team all-conference catcher a year ago. He's got the talent, just in his own head a little bit.
Yeah, even with the 138 average, still 6 RBIs, so getting some hits in big situations. On 0-2, bounces this one up the middle, and it's snagged on a line by the shortstop, Greene. Struck pretty well by Searles, but Tyler Greene gets over there to grab it, and that ends the first, but not before the Beacons score 3 runs on 3 hits at a Salem State error. We head to inning number 2, 3-0 UMass Boston.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, I can accomplish it.
It's a well-rounded experience.
At a Division III school, you primarily a student athlete, so the school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual.
It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
At Monin Park, set for inning number 2, and Fernando Burgos has himself some run support. 3 runs already home for UMass Boston against Salem State in a matchup of 2 teams that went to the NCAA tournament last year. Beacons, an at-large bid. Salem State won the MASCAC. Teams in the midst of conference play as well, where UMass Boston came off a sweep of Rhode Island College last time out, 5-1 and 7-4. Salem State had a 3-1 MASCAC weekend with 1 win, 1 loss against Bridgewater State and 2 wins against MCLA. Both teams play tomorrow as well as Thursday. The Beacons will play Roger Williams and Babson the next 2 days. Salem State will take on Plymouth State tomorrow, Endicott College the next day, and then Mass Maritime Academy. So Salem State in the midst of 4 games in 4 days with Plymouth State, Endicott, and Mass Maritime coming up. 5, 6, 7 in the order for Salem State. Joe Kasper, followed by Nick Day and Brendan Greene. Kasper's a .381 hitter, hitting in that 5 spot. 12 RBIs on the season for Kasper as well. Besides Seth Arensky, Bill Spalding, glad to be with you. Now with the lead, Fernando Burgos can get extra aggressive here. Beacons up 3-0 starting the second, and Burgos misses outside for ball 1.
Well, this is just what you want to do, where you get the early lead and then you want to be aggressive. Pound the strike zone, make them come up with hits. Don't be too delicate or think too much, as that one's flared fair.
That's a fair ball down the line. Kasper heading for second, and he's held by a strong throw. Luke Nagle looking like a veteran outfielder out there as he prevented that one from getting to the corner.
Well, it's only one play, but Nagle certainly looked like an adept outfielder for a guy who's been playing first base his whole life, even DH at the college level, but has been taking fly balls for a couple of games, and that was a really nice job, not only reading it, but slowing down ahead of time so that he could get the ball in quickly. A big turn at first base from Kasper, but immediately retreated.
And now Nick Day, the designated hitter. He's a slugger, 2 home runs, 12 RBIs. Big swing here, he fouls it off. We watched Day during batting practice, and yes, the wind is blowing out, but he hit 3 or 4 mammoth shots over the monster during BP.
Apparently earlier on during the Beacons' first batting practice of the day, they had their normal practice time early in the afternoon. Dave Murphy was taking batting practice despite the fact that he won't appear in today's game, and hit 4 consecutive shots over the light tower in mid-left out there over the monster. That just shows his power.
Yep.
And Day apparently has similar kind of aspirations.
No ball, 2 strike count to Day, who is a strikeout threat. He's only a .256 hitter, and this season Day has struck out 14 times.
Well, here you want to go low or very far outside, and instead he goes very far inside. But don't give him something he can drive. Make him either hit a pitch that's out of the zone or take a couple pitches to get back into the count.
Yeah, that tough running fastball just buried in on Day there. Burgos' 2-seamer has a lot of tail to it. In on righties, away on lefties.
And Fernando last year, not that we had much bad weather last spring compared to this spring, but he seemed to get good weather every single start as there's a big strikeout. This is the kind of weather that Fernando really excelled with last season, so hopefully he can bring out the best in the young sophomore.
Second strikeout today for Burgos, and it's not like he's a Florida kid. He's a local Boston kid out of Hyde Park, but enjoys the warm weather.
To be fair, I don't think any baseball player enjoys cold
No.
weather, even if they're from Alaska. It's just, I mean, some of the conditions that we've seen, it hasn't just been cold, it's been windy.
Chopped up the middle, could be 2. Hugie steps on the bag and fires it across. A 6-3 double play, and Burgos faces the minimum in the second. We go to the bottom of the second, 3-0 UMass Boston.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
We're back at Monin Park, 3-0 UMass Boston as we head to the bottom of the second. We're going to take a look back at some of the highlights from the first inning for the Beacons when UMass Boston rattled off 3 runs on 3 hits. So let's go back and look at a couple of these plays for the Beacons. Now this is with Fernando Burgos pitching for UMass Boston in the top of the first. Got a big sweeping strikeout, strike him out, throw him out, double play. That helped set the tempo for UMass Boston on the defensive end. And then on the offensive end, they got things going with 3 runs in the bottom of the inning. Started with this base hit from Nick Herzog, made it 3-0, driving home a run as Herzog delivered a 2-strike hit to center field. The Beacons had already punched 2 across. 3 runs on 3 hits and 1 error for UMass Boston in that first inning. Another look at one of the other big shots from that inning. That's a hit by pitch that sent Nagle down when it hit him on the noggin. All right, we're back to live action here with Sal Frascino, the 8-hole hitter, leading off the bottom of the second. Frascino, junior center fielder, hitting at .238 on the season with a home run and 6 RBIs. He takes a called strike on the outside corner.
Yeah, Sal wanted the drag bunt there, but the pitch was coming outside a little bit too fast for him. The first baseman playing very deep there. That's the kind of play where if you have speed and you're not hitting so well, just try to get yourself on base.
Pitcher Tim Woods delivers a pitch that may have been a strike if it was hauled in by the catcher. Fisher instead ruled ball 1.
And this likely will end up being a staff day for Salem State, whether they wanted it to or not. But right now, no movement out there after the lefty gave up 3 runs in the first.
Deuce looked like
I
see an orange jersey out there in the bullpen in right field. So
yeah, couldn't even see it. He was hidden behind the yellow tape out there. But yeah, righty already warming up. So maybe my point was correct. My fact wasn't.
I think to be expected regardless. Woods, a closer, generally only pitches an inning or 2 per outing. 2-1, fastball blown past Frascino, and the Cats 2-2. We mentioned the Beacons' busy schedule, 10 games in the next 12 days. Well, Salem State has 5 games in the next 4 days. So they play tomorrow, the following day, and then a doubleheader in conference the day after that.
Yeah, I don't know about starting your closer in a situation like that. When you have so many important games, when maybe Woods could give you an inning today if you're ahead, an inning tomorrow, an inning the next day. Instead, you throw him 2 innings today, maybe 3, and maybe he's unavailable for 2 or 3 days when you might need him in the 9th. Interesting decision by the first-year head coach.
Payoff pitch. Called strike 3. Got Frascino looking with an outside corner fastball. Second strikeout for Woods.
Mike Rabideau's been given that. First, on a normal day, Frascino might be on first base, but Rabideau consistently through the first inning and a half has been giving that outside pitch to lefties, inside corner to righties. And Frascino has to be aware of that and do a better job of protecting the plate.
Shortstop Charlie Hughey in the 9-hole takes outside for ball 1. Hughey's hitting at .212 this year with a home run and 5 RBIs. If he gets on, he is one of the Beacons' best base runners. 8 stolen bases this season in 9 tries.
And not a tremendously speedy guy, certainly not as fast as Frascino or some of the other outfielders on this Beacons team, but he's a very high IQ player. He's the Beacons' Brock Holt, as they love to call him. Started the year at second base, had to move to shortstop when Murphy went down and when Eddie Riley was struggling. Last year, he was the Beacons' backup catcher to start the year, ended up as the starting first baseman. He can play anywhere.
Hughey takes a ball. It's 3-0. So in danger of walking the 9-hole hitter, Tim Woods down 3-0 in the count. Leadoff man Danny Brown waits on deck.
And even a season ago, even a couple times this season, he started at third when Boudrias was unavailable.
3-0, fastball burns the outside corner. 3-1 count now to Hughey with the Beacons leading 3-0 bottom 2 in a matchup of 2 teams that went to the NCAA tournament last year. Now a 3-1, fouled back. Aggressive cut from Hughey, and he just missed it. Full count, Tim Woods working to Charlie Hughey, bottom second.
Hughey hitting just at .212, but last year was a .275 hitter, even higher heading into the regional tournament. Another guy who the Beacons just want to get jump-started here in early April.
Hughey flies this one right field, not very deep. Alex Toomey's there, and he puts it away for the out number 2. Toomey joined in the field for Salem State by Andrew Deloury in center, Joe White in left. It's Dan Connors at third, Tyler Galimi the shortstop, Brendan Greene's the second baseman, Joe Kasper plays first, and Maddox Fisher is the catcher today. And that may be it. Likely was a pitch count today for Tim Woods. So an inning and 2/3 in. Looks like Woods' day may be done as first-year head coach Al Donovan makes his way out to the mound.
38 pitches for Woods in an inning and 2/3. I'm guessing the 40 pitches was the limit. And they're not even going to let him see a 10th batter today. So on comes the bullpen. That's what the Beacons wanted. They thought they were going to see one of the midweek starters who do tend to go maybe 4 or 5, if you're lucky, 6 innings. Instead, Salem may be saving one of those midweek starters for Thursday against Endicott, another very talented team in the region. And this is going to be interesting to see. The Beacons are going to have to make totally new adjustments. They go from a lefty to a righty, probably decline a little bit the velocity. You don't see many guys throwing as hard as Woods does. And be interested to see how UMass Boston makes that adjustment, starting with Danny Brown.
And again, with 5 games in 4 days, maybe the plan was just to get Tim Woods some work early today, have him ready to go by Friday for the conference doubleheader against Mass Maritime at the end of a 5-game and 4-day stretch. The new pitcher for Salem State is Joshua Bell, a freshman from Uxbridge, Massachusetts. So Joshua Bell takes over here in inning number 2. So far this season, Bell has pitched in 4 games. He's made 2 starts. He's 0-1 with a 16.71 ERA. He has pitched 7 innings, given up 10 hits, 13 runs. Big issue has been control. He has walked 12, and he's only struck out 5. So Salem State will see if they can get some more consistent control from Bell, who again has 13 walks in just 7 innings this season, and he'll face the top of the Beacon order.
Well, Joshua was the guy who I originally thought was going to start this game. We try to get the graphics all set up beforehand to make life a little bit easier. It was either Josh or Jose Martinez, who's another guy with an ERA over 5. As a team, they have an ERA of 5.40. So the pitching has been an issue for Salem State. They've been able to outslug it for the most part, sitting at 12-11. But it'll be interesting to see. Already we see Bell a little bit bigger on the right side, and doesn't seem like he's throwing all that hard. We'll see if the Beacons can make that adjustment against the softer pitcher. Remember, the Beacons like to hit the fast stuff. They struggle a bit more when it's slow. See if they can make that adjustment. Normally, when you get a couple of early runs, it goes one or two ways. You either have a hit parade, or maybe when that second pitcher comes out, you begin to struggle and you have to find your rhythm once again.
You mentioned Salem State out slugging their opponents. They average almost 8 runs a game. They give up about 7.5 runs a game. So they play high-scoring games. They scored 36 runs over their last 3 games.
And Bill, as broadcasters, we know high-scoring games typically equal longer games.
Though, hey, with Salem State playing 5 games in 4 days, including a quick turnaround tomorrow, you know they want to get through this game pretty quickly. Bell facing Danny Brown with 2 down, bases empty here to start inning number 2. The line on Tim Woods, inning and 2/3, 3 hits, 3 runs, 2 of them earned. He didn't walk anybody. He struck out 2.
Yeah, Woods didn't pitch that poorly, but the Beacons able to take advantage in the middle of the order. A couple of hard hit balls, the wind aiding Chris Fowler's double to the wall, and really just good approaches up and down the Beacons order thus far.
So leadoff man Brown will look to start something with 2 for UMass Boston. He struck out looking in the first against Woods. Joshua Bell delivers a fastball. First pitch swinging. Liner left field. Sliding. It's hauled in. Good catch by Joe White out in left field to end the second. Now Joshua Bell does the job in the second. 1 pitch, 1 out. We head to the third. 3-0 Beacons on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
Cheer for the stumbles. The he shoulda had that's. And the tears that linger. For in those moments, greatness lies. There you will find the provoked, the determined, the unified. It's in those moments that champions are born.
At Moden Park, Beacons lead Salem State 3-0 in the Beacons Broadcast Network with Seth Orensky, Bill Spalding. Glad to be with you. Fernando Burgos goes back to work against 8-9-1 in the order. Burgos has faced only 1 more than the minimum, even though he's allowed 3 hits. He got a double play ball in the second to make it a 1-2-3 inning. In the first inning, Anthony Searles caught Alex Toomey hanging off of first base for a pickoff. So Burgos has faced just 7 batters. His pitch count is low. He has not walked anybody. He struck out 2. He's allowed 3 hits. 8-9-1 for Salem State, but there is no easy part of this Viking order. Tyler Galimi, the 8-hole hitter, is a 368 hitter. Maddox Fisher, who hasn't played much this season, does hit 5 for 14, so about 350, and then you get right back to the top of the order again.
Well, that just means your defense is going to have to play well, and right now we'll take a look at that inning-ending double play from the last half inning. A nice job by Hughie, not a shortstop by trade, to take it himself and then get it across for the third out of the inning. Just a really easy, high-hop ball, and the Beacons have played well defensively behind Burgos, who's still giving up a few more hits than he would have last season when he was a guy who would go 7-8 innings and give up just 3, maybe 4 hits when he was on. He had dominating performances against Western New England here, Billy Babson, and then 2 games against Southern Maine. So Burgos has dealt a little bit with the sophomore slump, but the biggest thing is keeping a 0 on the board for Salem State. And when you face 8-9-1, you want to get 8 and 9 before the leadoff hitter steps up.
Galimi slugs this one into the gap. Well, you're not getting number 8 as this rolls all the way to the wall. Tyler Galimi starts the inning with a leadoff double.
Yeah, that was absolutely ripped. No chance for Fruscino not only to get there, but also, despite taking a good angle to the ball, unable to cut it off. He was aiming to keep Galimi at first base. And now Salem State with Maddox Fisher, a guy who hasn't seen a ton of at-bats. If they're going to play small ball at any point today, it's going to be with Maddox Fisher because he's not a guy who sees as many at-bats. He's in there because of an injury, but down by 3, I think there's even less of a chance we see the small ball here in the top of the third.
The catcher, Fisher, is 5 for 14 this season, and he takes strike 1. No sign of a bunt there for Maddox Fisher. Freshman out of Wayne, New Jersey, Paramus Catholic. That's an athletic powerhouse outside of New York City. The only player not from the state of Massachusetts on the Salem State roster. Maddox Fisher takes the ball.
Maddox is a very interesting name. That's the first time I've ever heard it.
I agree. I don't think I've ever seen it spelled at least that way. Maybe it was supposed to be Maddox with an X.
It's a nice name. Creative.
Sure, his parents are glad to have your approval. The 1-1 slides low, and it's 2-1. Galimi at second base after a leadoff double. The 4th hit for Salem State through 3 innings, but the first extra base hit. Two 2-1 coming to Maddox Fisher. Swings through it. Good fastball down and in. It's 2-2.
Yeah, that was big. He knew the fastball was coming. It wasn't able to catch up to it. Those are the kind of counts that Burgos wants to avoid today. Behind the count, 2-1. And you don't want to put the first 2 guys on in front of the top of the order where pretty much every one of these guys not only hits well, but has some extra base power.
Burgos checks second on the 2-2. Missed outside. Counts full. Trying to find that generous corner, but that slid all the way out into the other batter's box. Behind Fisher, it's back to the top of the order, and Alex Toomey with still nobody out here in the third. Beacons up 3-0. This is fouled away. Fisher fights off that down and in fastball this time.
Might have been ball 4. That was very low and potentially inside the left-handed batter's box. Inside-out cut to stay alive. Burgos has not been able to necessarily hit his spots here in the third thus far.
Sophomore Fernando Burgos to the plate on 3-2. Missed away. First walk of the day for Burgos. 8 and 9 in the order reach for Salem State. And the card turns over to Alex Toomey.
Yeah, this is what you don't want to see. 8-9-1 is where you attack. Instead, he leaves a first pitch fastball up that's crushed out in the left center, and then trying to get a little too cute working against Maddox Fisher, ends up issuing the free pass. Now it's on Burgos to throw strikes and trust his defense. Up by 3. Granted, you know Salem State's going to get their runs at some point, but you want to give up potential runs to allow runners to advance here, or outs to get runners advancing, just to keep this inning as small as possible.
Alex Toomey steps in. He singled in the first, was picked off first base by the catcher Anthony Searles. Part of a stellar defensive performance so far for the Beacons. It also includes a double play. Toomey's average climbing toward 300, now at 296 with that leadoff single. Takes the running fastball in for ball 1. Toomey, a junior, only one freshman in that Salem State starting lineup, and it's the catcher Fisher, who stands on first now.
And Toomey's one of the team's faster runners, you would assume. He's had 3 stolen base attempts on the year. That's tied for the team lead.
Late on that elevated fastball that time, count to 1-1. And Toomey 1 for 3 stealing bases this year. Salem State doesn't run a whole lot because they're a team that likes to slug the ball. Team leader in steals is Brendan Greene, who's 3 for 3 this season. Salem State 12-11 on the year. UMass Boston 12-7 this season. 1-1 missed outside on a slider. It's 2-1. Not a whole lot of space out there for Burgos to put Toomey with a 2-hole hitter Deloury waiting on deck. Still nobody out in this third inning. Beacons leading 3-0. Burgos delivers. Popped back to the screen. It's 2-2.
And even that pitch, it seemed like it was a little bit up, maybe a little bit over the waist. Toomey tried to push that ball into the outfield instead of only able to put it back. Right now, if you're Fernando Burgos, if you're the Beacons pitching coach, you just want him to calm down, relax, and try to locate a little bit better, as this is where his issues have come this year. It hasn't been necessarily not having the velocity a year ago. It's just been the pinpoint location that's hurt him.
2-2. Running fastball. Got him swinging.
And that's a perfect pitch. Even if it was a little bit inside, it still looks pretty good. Runs inside. Even if you hit that, you're likely hitting a soft ground ball in the infield.
Third strikeout for Burgos. And now Andrew Deloury hits with 1 away. Burgos possibly a ground ball away from getting out of this.
And possibly a ground ball away from avoiding seeing the middle of the order, those big 3- and 4-hole hitters with multiple runners aboard.
Deloury struck out swinging in the first, but he does have 2 home runs on the season. Searles snapping down. It's a good stop by Fowler at first.
Yeah, and that was very close there at first base. If that ball hadn't taken a hop and Searles had gotten it in there in the air, could have been very close. Remember, Searles was able to pick off Toomey back in the first inning on a double play, strike him out, throw him out, pick off at first to get out, as the Beacons have turned 2 in each of the first 2 innings.
2 home runs, 10 RBIs for Deloury this season. Again, he struck out versus Burgos in the first. One-0. Slider for a strike. Off-speed pitch and a fastball count there.
Deloury wasn't looking for it. Deloury was not even going to try to swing at that pitch. A perfect pitch fooled him, and he just let it go, as that's the kind of stuff that Burgos possesses.
Kick and pitch on 1-1. Strike on the outside corner, burning the edge with a fastball. Seems like the alarm bells, when they started to ring here in this inning, might have woken Burgos up a bit. Some tough pitches to the last 2 batters.
Yeah, these past 3 strikes have all been perfect pitches where it's very difficult to do anything with them. Burgos, a guy who, he's an athlete out there. Last season, a big part of his success was not only fielding his position, but moving quickly, knowing how the rest of the infield would do better if he moved quickly. And when you start walking guys, the infield begins to lull, maybe even you begin to lull. So he'll try to speed it up a bit, not just for himself, but for the defense behind him.
1-2. Caught on and missed. Deloury's down for the second time. It was another running fastball.
And a heavy fastball as well. When that caught the glove of Searles, a huge pop you could hear all the way up top. As Burgos has done a great job, almost identical pitches to strike out the past 2 right-handed batters. Balls that ran in underneath the hands at about knee level, and they couldn't do anything with them.
2 down, up to Dan Connors. Otherwise, Salem State strands runners on first and second with nobody out.
And the top of the order as well. You'd expect more from this group, but still with 1 out to play with, still have a chance.
Connors fouls off strike 1. He singled back in the first inning, a sharp single. Ended up stranded on first base at the end of the first. 3-0 UMass Boston. The Beacons' 3 runs came back in the bottom of the first. Roll 1. In the dirt, skips away from Searles, and everybody moves up. So Galimi to third. Fisher to second on a wild pitch.
Searles got ahead of it, but it just took a really bad bounce off of his left knee brace and ended up back in the stop. So it puts a little bit more pressure on the defense here. Can't get a single to the outfield and keep them from scoring a run, but Burgos just has to bear down, throw strikes, and not give the big right-hander anything too good to hit here, knowing that first base is open.
1-1, slider, ground ball, softly hit to second. Brown's got it, his throw in plenty of time, and Fernando Burgos works himself out of a jam. Burgos gets 1, 2, 3 in the order on back-to-back strikeouts and a soft grounder to second base. We head to the bottom of the third. Beacon still lead 3-0.
The University of Massachusetts Boston, with its scenic oceanfront campus, easily accessible to downtown Boston, is recognized as a model of excellence for urban public universities. 16 NCAA Division III sports are part of the more than 100 student organizations that create an engaging campus life in America's biggest and best college town. UMass Boston, Boston's urban public research university for the 21st century.
At Moden Park in Boston on a day that broke records in Massachusetts. 84 degrees at midday today in Boston. Broke the previous record high for April 11th by 6 degrees. Temperature still comfortable in the high 60s or low 70s after sunset here with a breeze blowing out towards center field. That breeze chilly enough to lead to some sweatshirts and jackets in the crowd, but compared to what we've had over the past month, this is wonderful weather. 3-0 UMass Boston after Fernando Burgos, the Beacon pitcher, worked his way out of a 2-on, nobody-out jam in the top of the third. Now it's 2-3-4 in the UMass Boston order here in the bottom of the third against Joshua Bell, who entered with 2 outs in the second, threw just 1 pitch to retire Danny Brown. Tim Woods, the starter for Salem State, pitched an inning and 2/3, gave up 3 hits, 3 runs, 2 of them earned, didn't walk anybody, and he struck out 2. Fifth appearance for Bell, a freshman from Uxbridge, Massachusetts. Again, he's had the walk issue, so his ERA 16.71, thanks in part to 12 walks and 10 hits in just 7 innings of work. Tough task for him here this inning against Dan Mantoni, Kyle Boudrias, and Chris Fowler. Mantoni singled and scored in the 3-run Beacon first inning. First pitch from Bell. Running fastball, called the ball. Must have missed just low. Now 1-0. Slider swung on and missed. Mantoni over the top of it. 1 ball, 1 strike to the senior Dan Mantoni. Out of Northbridge, Massachusetts. Mantoni, a dual threat for the Beacons. Check swing, nubber to short. Tough play for Galimi, who charges, throws on the run. Just in time. First baseman Kasper got his foot back to the bag. Fancy footwork over at the right side corner. 1 down for Kyle Boudrias. Boudrias reached on an error in the first on a ball that was well struck up the middle. That error sent Mantoni home. Boudrias came home to score in that inning as well. First pitch to Boudrias, hammered to center field, hangs up for Deloury right at him, and there's 2 quick outs. Now Joshua Bell pitching unlike a guy who had a 16.71 ERA coming in. He's retired the first 3 he's faced. Moves up Chris Fowler, the 4-hole hitter. Fowler doubled off the wall in center and drove home an RBI. His 9th straight game with an RBI and his 17th RBI of the season as Fowler takes a strike. Chris Fowler has hit in 15 straight games. Junior from Barnstable, Massachusetts, transfer from Wheaton College, hit just .223 last year. This one hangs up in left, and Joe White's got it. A very quick inning for Joshua Bell. Retires 2-3-4 in order, and we head to the 4th. 3-0 UMass Boston leads.
Division III allows you to give yourself to other things.
having that free time allows me to pursue the things that I want to pursue.
Division III athletics affords students the opportunity to, engage in the other interests in their campus and in their lives outside of that sport.
It allows you to just be able to do everything you want to do. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Back at Monin Park in Boston, after a quick third inning, we move to the fourth. Fernando Burgos still working for the Beacons after he channeled his inner Houdini in the third, escaping a 2-on nobody out jam and keeping the goose egg on the scoreboard. Seth, it hasn't been a perfect game for Fernando Burgos, but he's done what a good starter has to do. He's worked around 4 hits and a walk in 3 innings without allowing a run.
Well, Bill, there's 2 parts to it. A, the defense has helped him out. They've turned a pair of double plays. Anthony Searles, his catcher, picking off a runner at first, back in the first inning to get him out of a little bit of trouble. But B, he's been able to keep the zeros up on the board because he's pitched well when he's needed to. He gave up the leadoff double in the last half inning, then issued a walk. Top of the order came up, did a really nice job of striking out the next 2 batters on really nice cutting fastballs inside on the right-handers, and then a weak dribbler over to second base. Good pitchers sometimes will give up the hits, but the big part is, can you keep them off the scoreboard? Can you keep them from getting the big innings? And this is what you want to see. The cleanup hitter stepping up to the plate with no one on to start an inning.
Salem State averages 7.7 runs per game. Though they can go a little hot and cold, they've scored double figures in their last 3 games, but they've also been shut out twice this season. Batter is Joe White, the cleanup hitter, and takes a first pitch slider for ball 1.
Well, I'm sure just like UMass Boston, that Salem State has a type of pitcher that they excel against and a type of pitcher they struggle against. Not many teams have a type that is Fernando Burgos where they really want to hit well against him because, A, he keeps everything low for the most part. That's where he lives. He has very good control, not overpowering fastball, but certainly good enough to get swings and misses. He's really an enigma when it comes to a Division III pitcher. You don't see many guys with his kind of stuff, and that's why he was so dominant last year in ERA sub-2. Has struggled this year with the control that's led to the higher ERA, but thus far we've seen more of the good Burgos today than the bad.
2-1 strike count. Burgos to the plate. That's a strike. Good spot. Outside corner at the knees on the cleanup man White, who grounded to short back in the first.
And that's an instance where White's probably looking for a fastball middle in instead a pitch right at the knees. Wasn't expecting it, couldn't pull the trigger, and now he's even in the count at 2-2 rather than having that hitter's count.
Spun around on a slider there. Foul. Count stays at 2-2. Wind still blowing out to center, but so far Burgos has kept the ball in the infield. Few line drives, but no long fly balls. Ground ball to third. This should be easy for Boudrias. And the throw's in time to get the speedy White. Really legged it down the line there.
A really nice effort from him. It didn't look like Boudrias was really in a hurry over there at third base, knowing that he has the arm strength. But thus far, outside of a couple hard hit line drives, haven't hit many hard ground balls. They have just the one hard hit ball to the outfield. Burgos has been forcing a lot of softly hit balls, which is what you want to see against a team that has the power to drive it out.
The 10 outs so far have come on 4 strikeouts, 4 ground balls, and then 2 double plays to get the 10 outs so far. Joe Kasper, the batter, singled back in the second. On 0-1, Kasper eyes an outside corner strike on that expando zone left of the plate.
Hey, both pitchers will take it, both catchers will take it, and the fans who want to see this game move along will probably be happy as well.
Another chopper to Boudrias. He's busy this inning. Low throw, scooped out. Fowler picked it to save Boudrias' error, and there's 2 away.
Well, when you're hitting well, it typically helps your defense and your all-around play, and Fowler, feeling it offensively, already has his hitting streak extended, his RBI streak extended, and he's doing a little bit a better job with the picks over there. I think when you play every day, not just having that practice, having the ability to practice that on the practice field, but also in the games, it gives you a bit more confidence in the turf. You're certainly have a better chance of expecting and getting what you expect with that true hop.
First pitch slider has Burgos up in the count 0-1. Comes back with another one low. 1-1 to Nick Day, Jr. Again, big power hitter. Day out of Lynn, Massachusetts, and Lawrence Academy. 1-1. Popped up. Right side of the infield. Second baseman Brown wants it, and it's a 1-2-3 inning for Fernando Burgos, who has retired 6 straight. He's cruising with a 3-0 lead as we head to the bottom of the 4th.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and I know how powerful words can be. The term gay doesn't mean stupid, lame, or less than.
So I pledge to speak up if I hear the term gay used in a derogatory way or any other homophobic terms.
If you can play in Division III.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and my teammates unconditionally accepted me as part of their family. So now I pledge to do the same for others. If you can play in Division III.
At Monin Park in Boston on a perfect night for baseball. You're playing roulette on April 11th. You never know what you're going to get. You'd sign up for this weather 365 days a year and 366 on leap years.
Yesterday was the nicest day of the year in Boston. Today was even nicer. Now it'll be 60 and thunderstorms all afternoon long tomorrow. And then the rest of the week it'll be mid-50s and sunny, which for this time of year is normally everyone's favorite. Yep. But this is certainly amazing weather that we're having, and these guys might not get to enjoy a day like this again until early May.
3-0 lead for UMass Boston. All 3 runs came back in the first. Reliever Joshua Bell has faced 4 batters. He has thrown 6 pitches. Doesn't get much more effective than that as he's retired the first 4 he's faced out of the bullpen.
Well, that's not going to make Brendan Nagle very happy. For a guy who came in with an ERA of 16.71, the Beacons have just not done a good job. 12 walks on the year versus 5 strikeouts. They need to take some pitches, make Bell work, and maybe see a little bit more pitches to figure him out. Normally you want that leadoff hitter to take a couple of pitches and have an elongated at bat, but Danny Brown took the first pitch he saw, hit it hard, just right at an outfielder, and the Beacons haven't been passive enough thus far against Bell.
1-0 to Herzog. Fisted straight at short, and that's easy for Galimi. Another 2-pitch out for Joshua Bell, who is finding the zone here for the first time in his college career. He had 12 walks over his first 7 collegiate innings.
Yeah, and it wasn't just the walks. I mean, he was hit. 10 hits, 13 runs, 13 earned. But when you're giving up more earned runs than hits, that means that walks and control has been an issue. So this is a bit of a concern for UMass Boston because they're getting the zeros on the scoreboard for Salem State. But you want to add to this lead. When you already have an early advantage, you scored 3 in the first. The worst thing you can do is just give the opposing team a chance to get back into the game by putting up zeros of your own offensively.
Here's senior Luke Nagle. Takes outside. Nagle was hit by a pitch in the first inning. This is his first career start, first start of his life in the outfield. He's been tested only once so far, but he made a good play running a ball down the line and making a strong throw into second. There's that wide outside strike zone again. The count is 1-1.
Well, Nagle has slimmed down a decent amount, so he's not in first base shape. He's more in athletic shape, and that's given him the ability to move a little bit better out there in left field. But a lot of these guys, I mean, you look at Danny Brown, who's playing at second. He's a right fielder, a left fielder, center fielder by trade, was the leading passer in New Hampshire his final year, whatever division he was playing as a quarterback. These guys are just athletes.
Yep.
So it's easy to move around, but you don't see it as traditionally first base to left field, although playing in front of the mini monster out there in left is a bit easier than a cavernous space that you might see in some other Division III parks.
Deepest at bat against Bell so far belongs to Nagle at 3-1. He check swings on what may have been ball 4, and now the count goes full.
You said it, he thought it, and I'm in agreement. Nagle knew that pitch was just outside, was trying to hold off, and instead cue shot back to the stop.
I'll say may, though, because there has been that wide outside corner strike zone.
That is true. I'm sure he would have taken it either way, though, at 3-1.
Now 3-2. Swinging, pop up, left field. Playable for Joe White again, and he's got it. But Josh Bell's living dangerously. 5 of his 6 outs have come through the air on a day where the wind is gusting out, but so far so good. He's retired all 6 he's faced.
And 2 of those 6 fly balls have been hit hard. They've just been more line drives than deep flyouts. The wind seems to have slowed down just a little bit, but it's still whipping all 3 flags out there in right center.
Brings up Anthony Searles, who hit a ball hard back in the first. A line drive up the middle, caught by the shortstop, Galimi.
It got in on his hands a little bit. The only reason that it didn't get out there towards center field. And this is the guy who, if he can hit one into the jet stream, it'll be well over dead center. He crushed one out during the LEC tournament a year ago.
1-0 to Searles. Inside for a ball. Almost went. There's got to be some kind of funky movement on these Bell pitches because he's gotten the Beacons to chase a few out of the zone. Here comes a 2-0 from Josh Bell. Another inside pitch that Searles swings through, and it's 2-1.
Yeah, he turned around and asked if that was a strike. I believe the umpire indicated it was. It's interesting. He's got a weird arm angle. When the ball comes out of his hand, it's not a traditional place. If we can just try to analyze the next pitch and take it from the down low angle instead of up top. We'll see if we can illustrate it a little bit more.
On 2-1, splits the plate in half, counts 2-2. Joshua Bell's retired the first 6 he's faced out of the bullpen. Salem State needs him to go deep. They're in the midst of a 5 games in 4-day stretch. Here's a 2-2, way outside. Hasn't been able to throw that breaking ball for a strike yet.
Well, at some point that's going to become a real issue because if you can sit fastball and he doesn't have an overpowering one, it's going to cause some big issues. Thus far, he's been able to avoid the trouble.
Here comes the payoff pitch to Searles. Foul back.
If nothing else, these last 2 at-bats by these seniors have given the Beacons a better idea of the kind of stuff that Bell has, and they've made him work a little bit harder. 38 pitches for the starter Woods in just an inning and 2/3, but we've already seen Bell go well over an inning and 2/3 and throw probably half that many pitches, if not less.
7th pitch to Searles is ball 4. So a 7-pitch walk for Anthony Searles. He's aboard with 2 away. You mentioned it, Nagle goes 6 pitches, Searles 7, and finally a base runner against Bell.
And Bill, how many walks on the season is that for Searles? Because despite his very low batting average, his on-base percentage has to be half decent.
That's his 15th walk of the season, which leads the team. His on-base percentage coming in was .296, so now should be over 300.
Not bad for a guy who's hitting about $150. So Searles is realizing his struggles at the plate, has been a little bit more selective, trying to get on base, knowing that other guys in the lineup can potentially pick him up and drive him in.
Frashino takes a ball, and sometimes that's the toughest thing to do. When you're slumping, you tend to get anxious and start pulling off and swinging at bad pitches. Bell snaps back for Searles, gets away from the first baseman Kasper.
This is the first time we've seen Bell with a runner on base since that first batter he faced.
Yep.
To run around on second when he had to throw just the first pitch. Didn't look like a great move over to first base. Searles is another one of those guys who's not tremendously fast, but does have a high baseball IQ and can take off.
He's going here, pitch outside. The throw is on the money. Boy, Maddox Fisher guns down Anthony Searles, and that does it for the 4th inning. Beacons do not score. They strand nobody on base. We'll head to the 5th, 3-0 UMass Boston.
What separates UMass Boston from other schools is the fact that a large percentage of students commute. For me, it takes 2 hours each day to go to and from school, but every second has been worth it because the students that come here are serious about learning, they value their education, and understand where it'll take them in the future. This is what UMass Boston means to me.
At Monin Park in Boston, we move to the 5th inning. Fernando Burgos has been ahead 3-0 since the bottom of the first, and he has been cruising lately. 6 consecutive Salem State Vikings retired. It all started with him allowing the first 2 runners of the 3rd to reach, but he came back strikeout, strikeout, ground out against 1, 2, 3 in the order. Got 4, 5, 6 in the order on ground out, and pop out. So 1 through 6 in the order, second time through. Nobody's left the infield yet.
It's been easily one of his top 2 or 3 performances of the year, and it all starts with the 1 walk. outside of the walk that was generated a little bit by maybe nerves after giving up the big double to the 8-hole hitter. Burgos has done a nice job of getting a lot of first pitch strikes, which is key when you're struggling a little bit with your control on the year, and he's trusted his defense. The Beacons have done a really nice job behind him, no errors on the day, and Burgos, who loved the warm weather a year ago, has looked at his best when the warm weather came out to start 2017.
7, 8, 9 in the order for Salem State, but these Vikings as a team hit .328. They average 8 runs a game, so this is not your father's 7, 8, 9. Greene hits .395. Then Galimi hits .368. Matic Fisher is 5 for 14 of the season.
Yeah, I think that he's going to be very careful with Tyler Galimi, the 8-hole hitter, the guy who hit a high fastball out to left center. But first you got to focus on Greene. And Greene with the high hands, it's a very simple approach for him. You just bring him down right into the plate. This is something that a lot of the Salem State hitters were using during batting practice. The Beacons coaches were talking about it. They have such a simple, easy approach at the plate that it leads to them having so much success at the plate.
Greene drills this one to center. Frashino going back. It's over his head and all the way to the wall. 7-hole hitter Brendan Greene has his first hit of the day. It's a double, the 5th hit for Salem State.
I think that ball was wind aided just a little bit. It was hit very hard right at Frashino. Those are the hardest balls to judge, but normally Frashino's able to catch up to it and wasn't able to quite get there. We'll take a look at the highlight when we have it. So this is the guy who had the first double of the game for Salem State.
Yeah, Tyler Galimi reached on a double in the 3rd, was stranded at second base after Burgos came back with 3 consecutive outs. First pitch to the .370 hitter Galimi is taken outside for a ball.
No, that was a delayed strike call.
Another wide outside strike. It's 0-1.
I think the umpire was appreciating that pitch for a little bit before he gave the strike call. Nice breaking the ball that may have gone through the strike zone before going out.
0-1 to Galimi. A called strike again right at the knees. So 0-2 to Galimi, who, like Dan Mantoni for the Beacons, is out of Northbridge, Massachusetts, though he did go to a different high school. Mantoni went to Hopedale. Galimi went to Northbridge.
Mike Rabideau is an interesting home plate umpire. A couple of these times he's nearly fooled us with a delayed strike call, but he has been consistent, if not a little bit lenient on the strike zone.
It's like Cowboy Joe West during his days in the big leagues. If you're a pitcher, you see him show up, you know you got a generous strike zone coming. But it's consistent, and that's all you can ask for.
Certainly.
1 ball, 2 strike pitch from Burgos to Galimi. Tails in, called strike 3.
That's a tough one. That one was very close on the corner, but it was made a lot worse by the fact that Galimi jumped out of the way. I don't think it was as far out as Galimi did, and I'd love to see if we can get a replay of that last play, as we do have replay opportunities, but that one was very interesting. And now we've got a pinch hitter. They're going to pinch hit the backup catcher who's in the starting lineup today.
With another catcher, Zach Duvall, sophomore from Middleton, Massachusetts. So Duvall will bat for Matic Fisher. Tough break for Matic Fisher. He throws a runner out and then gets lifted from the game for Duvall, a .269 hitter, 7 for 26 on the season.
Well, Bill, I think it was Salem State last year who used multiple catchers. They still have Jose Cedeno available, even with Tegan Malionic, the starter, out. So this is a team that has 4 catchers, so probably a team maybe a little bit more prone to using lefty-righty matchups or just matchup changes overall.
Pitch down and away. After this next pitch, we're going to take a look back at that called strike 3 from the previous pitch, as our replay operators just had it all queued up. So after this pitch, we'll bring that to you. 1-0 to Duvall. Catches the corner for a strike. Let's go back to that called strike 3, a close pitch for Burgos. Swing and a miss. Good breaking ball. Searles snaps back to first. Play. Now 1-2 strike pitch from Burgos to Galimi. Tails in. Called strike 3.
That's
pitch to Duvall. Slider. 1 ball, 2 strike 2 from Burgos to Galimi with 1 away. Tails in. Called strike 3.
That's
The set from Burgos. One, two, foul away to the screen. 1 ball, 2 strike pitch from Burgos to Galimi. Tails in, called strike 3.
That's
1 ball, 2 strike pitch from Burgos to Galimi. Tails in, called strike 3. Zach Duvall with one down. 1 ball, 2 strike pitch. Got to look again at that called strike 3.
Yeah, had a little bit of technical difficulties. We'll have it to you after this batter, but Duvall's had a nice little battle here, fighting off a couple tight pitches.
1-2 delivery, slider off the plates, 2-2. Burgos was trying to catch the back door.
Yeah, Searles tried to frame it, but that one came from just a bit too far outside to get the lenient call on the outside corner.
2 ball, 2 strike count, 1 down. Runner on second, Brendan Greene led off the inning with a double. Last time Burgos gave up a leadoff double, he worked his way out of the inning. 2-2. Grounded foul, and it stays 2-2. 1 ball, 2 strike pitch from Burgos to Galimi. Strike 3 from the last batter, and tails in. Called strike 3.
Yeah, I agree.
Box line, so that was a tough break. 1 ball, 2 strike pitch from Burgos. Any of the 3 strikes called on him in that at bat were strikes.
Well, it's that cutting fastball may have fooled the home plate umpire as well. He was able to strike out a couple of the righties swinging with that one. This time, maybe an over-generous inside corner.
2-2 to Duvall, and he waves at it. Strikeout number 6 for Burgos. And just like the third inning, he's answered a double with consecutive strikeouts.
After the walk in the third inning, he put himself in even more pressure, but that time Duvall chased. That pitch was pretty much in the same position that Galimi struck out, looking on a pitch that was bit off the corner. But
is that a chase in that situation then, if it could be called a strike?
I think it's a chase. It's just not as bad of a chase. And that's what happens when an umpire gives a corner that liberally. It causes batters to have to go outside the strike zone. As now Toomey's up for the 3rd time.
Alex Toomey has singled and struck out today. Salem State still hasn't scored, but Toomey ropes this one down the line. It's a foul ball.
Yeah, that
just hooked wide of left.
Probably 6 inches, maybe a little bit closer down the left field line. Fortunate for the Beacons, that one was absolutely ripped. Would have been enough for the run to score and probably extra bases.
Greene still on second, led off the inning with a double to deep center. 3-0 UMass Boston, top of the 5th at Moden Park. Fernando Burgos helping the Beacons kick off a 10-game and 12-day stretch. Wanted a deep outing from him. He's already gotten him through 5 with plenty of bullets left in the chamber.
I think we're still in the 5th.
Yep, 4 2/3 innings in to this 5th inning with 2 down and 0-1. Down low, and Searles makes an outstanding block.
And this is where I think Anthony Searles still gives you tremendous value despite the batting average. And a lot of people look at the batting average and say, oh, Anthony Searles is having a bad year. Well, offensively, he's not having his most productive season, but his ability to not only work with all the pitchers on this team and potentially frame some extra pitches and calm them down and call a good game, but his strong arm and his ability to get in front of some of those pitches have been huge to help this team keep teams off the scoreboard, and that's just as important if you're a catcher.
1-1 from Burgos. Called strike on the outside corner, Seth. There's a reason why so many everyday big league catchers might only be 220 career hitters. If you play good defense, you add more value as a catcher.
Absolutely. You look at Jonathan Lucroy, a guy who was touted as a pretty good catcher before he started hitting in a 300 level. Catcher's probably the one position, maybe along with shortstop in the big leagues and at any level, where if you play really good defense, your defense is almost more than enough, just because it can help the team with run prevention rather than run scoring.
1-2, slider, and Toomey's fooled. 3 straight strikeouts for Fernando Burgos after the inning was led off with a double. Burgos strands Greene. We go to the bottom of the 5th. It's still 3-0 Beacons.
UMass Boston was my first choice because when I came to the campus, I saw that there was a lot of diversity. There's a lot of people. Here there's a lot of international students, so it's really cool to meet people from different countries, different parts of the world. I'm Julia Murphy. I'm from Canton, Massachusetts.
I'm Olivia Murphy. I'm from Canton, Massachusetts.
We're sisters.
We're sisters.
I play volleyball and she plays basketball. Here they have a freshman success community. So each major has their own community that you can join as a freshman, and you take classes with them, you do study groups with them. So it was really helpful getting to know people in your major right away.
So in health exercise sciences, we have an internship at the end, so it's so much better to have like an advisor helping you out, like telling you which classes to choose.
We move to the bottom of the fifth at Monin Park. 3-0 UMass Boston. It's been that way since the first inning. In fact, the Beacons don't have a hit since the first inning. All 3 UMass Boston hits came back in the first. 3 runs, 3 hits, no errors for UMass Boston. No runs, 5 hits, and 1 costly error for Salem State in a battle of 2 teams that went to the NCAA tournament last year. Beacons will hit 8-9-1 in the order. Sal Frascino, Charlie Hughey, and Danny Brown against Joshua Bell. Bell has retired 7 batters in 7 he's faced. He walked 1, but that batter, Anthony Searles, was caught stealing. Otherwise, he has gotten the other 6, so he's faced the minimum to get his 7 outs. 8-9-1 in the order for Frascino, Hughey, and Brown. It looks like we may have a pinch hitter first. UMass Boston going with Ryan McCormick. So McCormick will pinch hit here, the freshman taking the place of Sal Frascino here in the bottom of the 5th. McCormick out of Cumberland, Rhode Island, and LaSalle Academy in his first season with the Beacons, and he takes ball 1 from Bell. McCormick this season hitting .296. This is his 14th game. He's 8 for his first 27 with 7 RBIs.
And this is a really interesting move because now the question becomes, who's your center fielder? Danny Brown can play center field, but he's playing second base, and I think Eddie Riley might have a bat in the dugout. No, it looks like Brown's the one over there. So the Beacons are going to have some interesting defensive moves after this.
There's a called strike, count to 2-1. Now Josh Bell had cruised through his first 6 batters. He walked Anthony Searles late in the 4th, but Searles was caught stealing. Now it counts 2-1 to McCormick. And that's low. It's 3-1.
Beacons don't have a hit since the first inning when they had a string of them. Most people thought 3. You were partisan to 4, but either way, 0 hits over the past 3 frames. Not what you want to see.
Grounder to short. Good play there by Galimi that time on the skipper, and he fires it away to get McCormick. Ball took a bit of a goofy hop on the turf there.
Yeah, nice play, sort of a mid-hop there that came up and almost caught him in the gut. And a nice job to not only make the play, but continuing his run across the second base bag. Had plenty of time to throw out McCormick, who will stay in the game, just not quite sure where.
1 down, Charlie Hughey bats and takes ball 1. Hughey flew out to medium-deep right field back in the 2nd inning. UMass Boston has only sent 10 batters up for the last 10 outs. Only Searles reached on the walk, and he was caught stealing. This has popped up, foul territory, long run. First baseman wants it, and he overran it. Joe Kasper lost it up in the lights. That'll likely be an error on Kasper, and the count moves to 1-1.
Bill, I don't think that one ever caught his glove, so it's not going to be an error, but it's one of those where it doesn't go as an error in the scorebook, but it goes as a second chance here for Hughey. See if he can do something. The Beacons try to get something going.
1-1. Fisted towards second, diving play, and Brendan Greene just made up for it.
Yeah, what an effort there from Greene. We saw him dive on a Mantoni single back in the first inning and be unable to make the play. This time, a great diving effort. There's now 2 down, and again, UMass Boston is not making the freshman work all that hard.
Top of the order, Danny Brown has taken a called strike 3 and lined out to left. Brown, a 158 hitter coming in. He's now 3 for 21 on the season, but up in the count 1-0 here. And Joshua Bell's had to go deep in the counts only twice against the 9 batters he's faced, and here he has the count level at 1-1.
And not coincidentally, it was to two of the three seniors in the Beacons lineup who came up there with a purpose.
There's a called strike. Down and in. Count to 1-2.
Well, on the other side of that, if Bell is going to throw pitches like that on the outside corner at 0-1, you're not going to have a lot of deep counts because he's doing such a good job of getting ahead.
Now the 1-2. Grounded foul. That was a breaking ball, and Bell showed it there. He could throw it for a strike.
Yeah, if anything, this is really good news if you're first-year head coach Al Donovan, because you have a guy who really struggled his first couple of appearances, and now he looks like a guy you could throw again next week.
There's a swing and a miss for a called strike 3. So 1-2-3 inning for Joshua Bell, who's doing yeoman's work out of the bullpen. We'll go to the 6th. Still 3-0 Beacons on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
UMass Boston is my first choice because of the incredible theater department.
Because it has an excellent honors college.
Because here I get to interact with professors one-on-one.
Because I'm not going to be crazy in debt when I graduate.
Because at UMass Boston, I've met professors who have changed my life.
My first choice.
My first choice.
My first choice.
My first choice.
Make the University of Massachusetts Boston your first choice. Visit umb.edu/first choice.
Well, Seth Orensky, Bill Spaulding, glad to be back with you here at Moden Park on a day where we thought the hitters would reign supreme. Best condition for hitting yet this season. Wind blowing out, temperature in the 70s at first pitch. Pitchers have been phenomenal. A 3-0 lead for UMass Boston with all 3 runs coming in the first when UMass Boston had 5 consecutive batters reach. Since then, Beacons have only put 1 runner on base. On the flip side, Salem State has 5 hits, but they haven't been able to punch anybody home in key situations. Salem State has left 5 runners on base through 5 innings. So Fernando Burgos goes to work here in inning number 6. And Seth, we have some defensive changes after the pinch hit for Ryan McCormick taking Sal Pacino's spot.
Yeah, McCormick's actually going to exit the game. They're going to keep Nagle out there, and it's Joey Rogers, the freshman right fielder for the most part, out there in center field.
So Rogers moves to center. He goes into the 8th spot in the order, taking Ryan McCormick's place. So 3 different Beacons have now played in that 8th spot in the order.
And that's interesting because Rogers has had his struggles at the plate. But if you're going to talk about a guy to fill in for Sal Frascino as one of your fastest players, Rogers is nearly as fast and a very good defensive center fielder. In a game like this where the wind's blowing out, you want to have that kind of speed in center field.
2, 3, 4 in the order for Salem State. So far, 2, 3, 4 in the order is just 1 for 6. Only 3-hole hitter Dan Connors has a hit today against the right-handed pitcher Fernando Burgos. Burgos has had Deloury's number. 2 strikeouts so far today. There's a fastball in the inside corner for strike 1. Burgos has struck out 7 overall, including the last 3 batters.
That was the Beacons sophomore's 70th pitch. So he still has plenty of rope left. As he'll look to go deep today is more of a, not just trying to get through this game, but also trying to set him up for success the next 2 weeks when he'll have to face a very tough team in Southern Maine, who's currently 4-0 in Little East Conference play.
1-1 pitch. Slider grounded right back to Burgos, who fields his position well. The underhanded flip in plenty of time. 1 down.
Fernando's done a really nice job with the exception of those 2 hard-hit doubles and a couple of hard-hit balls in the first inning. Almost everything coming off the bat of these Vikings hitters has been softly hit and normally right at someone.
If Burgos can get through 7, the Beacons bullpen has been rock solid on the back end. Bobby Tremendosi this year has 4 saves and 10 appearances, a 1.72 ERA. Mentioned what Brian Kaufman did a couple of days ago when he pitched more than 4 innings out of the bullpen to get a win. His ERA this season, 0.83. First pitch swinging, Connors grounds it to short. Hughie's throw is perfect. Now Burgos could go all day if he's going to get 1 pitch outs like that.
Yeah, this is what we're used to seeing out of Bell, at least for the majority of the batters he's faced. And now Burgos, who's had those 2 more difficult innings, the 3rd and the 5th, has really been able to mow down the top of the order the 2nd and 3rd times around. Tremendosi we're likely to see today, especially if this game stays close. Kaufman has been more of a long reliever kind of guy. could end up being a starter in some big midweek games. The way he's pitching, he normally goes 3, 4, even 5 innings and has earned a start on the year.
Slider inside for ball 1 to Joe White. 0 for 2 with 2 groundouts. Only 5 pitches so far this inning for Burgos, and he's gotten the first 2 outs. That's too far off the plate that time, and the count goes to 2 balls and no strikes. 14 RBIs this year for White, a .361 hitter. He clubs this one to second, sliding play Brown. Up to his feet, his throw is perfect. Only takes 8 pitches to get Fernando Burgos through the 6th. 1, 2, 3. Bottom of the 6th we go, 3-0 Beacons.
Paris changed my life, and I got there through UMass. Those very specific seminal moments in Paris. The subway. A man in a tuxedo walked in, and a woman in a long gown. And it was stunning. It all hit me. It was like a lightning bolt. There was this world of beauty and style that I wanted to be a part of. That was the beginning of the journey. And that all came through the University of Massachusetts. And that was really a key moment for me. That's one of those moments you never forget.
Move to the bottom of the 6th at Monin Park in Boston. Still 3-0 UMass Boston. The only runs came back in the bottom of the 1st. Goose eggs all around the rest of the way. The pitcher is still Joshua Bell for Salem State. Bell entered with 2 outs in the 2nd. It felt like one of those days where Salem State might need 6 or 7 pitchers. Well, all Bell's done is go 3 1/3 innings in the minimum. He's gotten 10 outs facing 10 batters. He's allowed just 1 runner to reach on a walk. That runner was caught stealing.
It's interesting right now. Both teams have right-handers warming up. The question, though, is are these guys who are just getting their midweek work, getting ready for the weekend again, or are these guys potentially warming up for today's contest? Can't really tell you, as it's not only a very deep distance out there to right, but also under the lights makes it harder.
Dan Mantoni swings at the first pitch and ropes it into the gap. Mantoni has the Beacons' first hit since the 1st inning, the 4th today for UMass Boston, and his 2nd.
Well hit. Wasn't hit all that deep, but with the quick turf, easily made it out to the wall, and this is what the Beacons want. Not only their first hit against Bell, but you put a runner out in second base with no outs. Now you can play a little bit of small ball, and you have your top 2 hitters at the plate in Boudrias and Fowler. Single likely would score Mantoni.
Boudrias reached on an error in the 1st. He lined out to deep center in the 3rd. Still looking to extend his 8-game hit streak as there's ball 1. Well, this is the longest Bell's ever gone in his college career. He'd only pitched 7 innings in 4 previous outings, so averaging only a little less than 2 innings per start.
And you wonder if that was all due to his issues in those games, giving up a lot of runs, giving up a lot of walks, or if that also was a little bit of fatigue. Difficult to tell with so little data. And now you see Donovan come out. This might be it.
After 2 quick balls to Boudrias, Al Donovan wasting no time rushing out to the mound. There was no visit to Bell, but when you see the head coach, generally that means a pitching change. Let's see.
You can see double barrel action out there in the bullpen, a lefty and a righty. Donovan might be just giving them a little bit more time to warm up right now, and then the quick yank are just trying to settle him down. Bell hadn't seen any kind of issues minus the walk to Searles, and it looks like he's going to keep him out there.
So 2-0 count to Boudrias with Chris Fowler, the Beacons' top slugger this season, waiting on deck. First base is open. Not that you want to put Boudrias on in front of Fowler here.
No, Fowler is one of 2 guys who have put a ball over the center fielder's head right to the wall in straightaway center.
On 2-0, Boudrias takes low. Ball skipped away from the new catcher just into the game, Duvall. And now it's 3-0.
And this is a spot where Boudrias is going to get the green light, but only for a particular pitch in a particular location. He's going to look to probably find a fastball that he can drive into one of the gaps. Otherwise, he's going to be taken all the way.
3-0 count. Mantoni on second after his double. So in this game, we've had a double from each of the players from Northbridge, Massachusetts in the game today. Galimi on one side, Mantoni on the other. 3-0 swing. This is drilled to right and down for a base hit in front of Toomey. Mantoni has to stop at third as he had to wait and see whether Toomey would haul it in. Runners on the corners still nobody out for the Beacons.
Toomey either lost that ball in the lights or knew the whole way he wasn't getting there because he waited a long time before he started the charge. Was in a good spot there to potentially throw Mantoni out at home, but he gave himself no chance to actually catch that ball. And now there's runners at the corners with no outs. There was no reason to risk having Mantoni thrown out at home for the first out.
And now Boudrias has hit safely in 9 games in a row.
Yeah, I mean, if the Beacons can get more of this lineup going, Mantoni's starting to hit. Boudrias is certainly hitting. Fowler has been hitting for past 15 games. If they can get 6 guys hitting instead of 3 or 4, could really start putting together a nice little streak like they've done the past couple of Aprils where they've won 13 in a row, 13 of 14. Big reason why they got into the NCAA tournament last year as an at-large bid.
End of the day for Josh Bell, who, you got to say, did really good work for Salem State to keep him in the game. 3 1/3 scoreless innings before entering this frame. Seemed to run out of gas second time through against the Beacons order. And a new pitcher, the third of the game here for Salem State.
I wonder if they go with the lefty for one, maybe 3 batters as you have Fowler, then Herzog, and then Nagle, or if you just go with the guy you think can get a number of outs, as it is going to be the lefty that was warming out up in the visitors' bullpen.
Still waiting to see a jersey number here.
And in fact, 3 of the next 5 batters currently would be lefties, as you have Joey Rogers in the 8 hole coming in there as the defensive replacement for the pinch hitter for the original starter, all 3 left-handed outfielders.
A new pitcher is J.P. Reeling, a freshman from Nahant, Massachusetts, out of Bishop Fenwick High School. Reeling has been the best pitcher this season out of the bullpen for this team. J.P. Reeling, a 2.19 ERA, a 1-0 record in 5 appearances. He's pitched 12 1/3 innings out of the pen, giving up just 11 hits, 3 runs, only 6 walks, and striking out 10. So J.P. Reeling in, and that tells you the strategy here for this Salem State coaching staff. They know they have a good offense. 3 runs is nothing. So in this situation, Salem State, even in the first of 5 games over 4 days, will go with one of their reliable relievers here. Reeling, a freshman, and right out of Bishop Fenwick High School. He stepped into the college level and played really well. And again, so that's what you're saying, strategically here for Salem State, that tells you the focus is still on this game. Even though 5 games in the next 4 days, they're bringing in their top reliever, at least statistically so far this season.
Well, more in the MASCAC than the Little East. You kind of have to win your conference tournament. It's difficult to get in as that large bid, and already with 11 losses, you don't have many more outs after that. But I think this is a good spot to bring in. This isn't your closer, but this is your stopper. And I read a really interesting ESPN The Magazine article about Andrew Miller and how some of the top relievers don't have to be closers in this day and age, and you see it with Reeling. Here's a guy coming in. This is the 6th inning with no outs. This is not where you expect to see your top reliever. Traditionally, it'd be the 7th, the 8th, even the 9th inning. But you started with Woods because it was a midweek game. You didn't feel comfortable with your other solutions. Knowing that you're not going to have one of your top guys at the end of this game, they're trying to keep this game close, hoping that they can blow the game open with 5-6 runs in the next couple innings and not have to worry as much about the 9th inning as they have here, because if you give up 2 or 3 runs, you might not have a chance to make a comeback.
Speaking of blowing the game open, that's what the Beacons are trying to do here with cleanup man Chris Fowler at the plate. Fowler is 1 for 2 today with an RBI double and a fly out to left. He has 17 RBIs to lead the Beacons this season, and he takes ball 1.
First pitch was a high fastball, a good amount of heat, just like Woods from the lefty. Fowler's going to look for a fastball that he can drive. Even a fly ball here should be enough for a run.
Yeah, Reiling, a hard-throwing lefty. Here he'll check on Boudrias, who has yet to attempt a stolen base this season.
Reiling 10 strikeouts in 12 1/3, but some of that power has been used behind him. He's given up a double and a triple in 12 1/3.
But only 11 hits in those 12 1/3 innings. Opponents hitting just .250 against him. Part of the reason why he has that 2.19 ERA.
And he's very concerned about Boudrias, which is interesting because Kyle is not what you'd call fast.
1-0, way high and tight. It's 2-0 to Fowler with Herzog behind him. Remember, Herzog drove in a run with a single in the first and then smoked a line drive to short back in the fourth.
And when you add in the fact that Boudrias is coming off a hamstring injury.
That's inside, past the catcher, all the way to the backstop. Mantoni scores. It's a wild pitch. Boudrias to second. Zach Duvall couldn't get over into that left-handed batter's box to haul that one in.
That pitch would have caught Fowler if he didn't do such a good job of getting out of the way. Won't show up in the score sheet, but a nice play by Fowler. And now a single here could give him a chance for a second RBI in the day.
3-0. Inside ball 4, so Fowler walks on 4 pitches. Runners on first and second. Still nobody out with the Beacons ahead 4-0 here in the 6th. And looking for more, Nick Herzog will hit.
I like this from Brendan Greene, coming in, trying to calm Reiling down after he missed on 4 straight pitches. That last pitch looked like the closest of the 4. It was just maybe a little bit of the earlier wildness caused the home plate umpire to close the strike zone a bit.
Herzog singled, drove in his 15th run of the season back in the first, lined out to short in the 4th. And he takes a first pitch strike there on the outside corner.
And Bill, you remember Nick from a year ago. He was a defensive replacement, a pinch hitter, pinch runner. He's really thrived this season, given a chance to start. Ryan Olivo not back, Lionel Danielson fighting for a job, and Herzog's been one of the Beacons' best outfielders, probably their best hitting statistical outfielder on the year.
Looks like they may have given Herzog a strike to work with, but he was showing bunt there before the step off.
Well, with no outs and already a 4-run lead, why not move both runners up?
Herzog pulls back and takes a ball. Snap to second. Look out. He's out. Zach Duvall catches Kyle Boudrias getting too far off his second base, and there's one down.
Yeah, Boudrias was worried about potentially being thrown out at third on the bunt. Herzog pulls it back, and the Beacons, that's the second no-no today where they've run into and out with a chance to maybe inflict a little bit more damage offensively.
So now 1 ball, 1 strike, 1 out, and all of a sudden Herzog's likely swinging away. He is, nubs it foul off the end of the bat. Herzog, an all-Suffolk County player at Riverhead High School in Long Island, hit .286 in his freshman season, mainly in a pinch hit role, 10 RBIs.
Did start a couple of games during the LEC tournament and then the NCAA regional.
1-2, Herzog. Foul tips it into the mitt, and Duvall holds on. So Herzog's down on strikes. First strikeout for J.P. Reiling. After Zach Duvall had that shaky start with the ball getting by him, he's come back with a caught stealing and now a squeeze of that deflected foul tip.
Yeah, and that's where you hate to run into that out because it gives the pitcher a little confidence. All of a sudden, instead of having 2 on and no outs, you have an out. There's only a runner on first base, and Reiling able to settle in and get that first out that he's put away.
Luke Nagle takes up high for ball 1. Nagle's had a good game at the plate without picking up a base hit. He was hit by a pitch in the first. He had a 7-pitch at bat against Joshua Bell. That ended a stretch of 2 pitch at bats or less for every Beacon against Bell.
I think Nagle's had a really professional game today. He's played decently well out in left field without much action, and he's a guy who is in the lineup today because he earned it. He's worked hard. He's consistent and positive. He's one of the 4 captains on this Beacons team. He's not going to get starts at first base with the way Chris Fowler's playing. You can't take Dan Mantoni out of the DH spot, so had to earn it a different way, and he's getting a rare start today because he's shown he can play left field successfully.
1-1. Breaking ball in the dirt. That was well read. Fowler takes second on the wild pitch. He was gone before the ball even made contact with the dirt as he read it going low out of the zone.
And that's the second or third nice read we've seen from Fowler today. The play that he scored on, the Nick Herzog single, he was off on the bat, recognizing the fact that the ball was going to get down in front of the center fielder Deloury.
2-1 to Nagle. Foul tipped. It's 2-2. Now, Luke Nagle could play his way into more games out in the outfield. Beacons have been looking for consistent hitting from their outfielders this season.
Yeah, and I think you're not going to play Nagle in a park where left field's maybe a little bit deeper, a little bit more difficult. But here at home, just like Fenway Park, left field's where you can put a defensively slightly deficient player, knowing that there's not as much room. I'm not calling Nagle deficient.
Is where you can put Manny Ramirez and get away with it.
Exactly. That's where you put the weakest outfielder, and if you have a speedy center fielder and a good right fielder with speed, you can make up for that and shift a little bit farther towards left. Not trying to say anything bad about Luke, but I am saying that there is a strategy behind why putting him in left versus right or center.
Here comes a 3-2 from Reiling. Line to foul back to the screen. It stays 3-2 with Fowler on second. 1 run home for the Beacons here in this inning. Yet if they only score the 1, they'll be left thinking of what could have been after the base running blunder led to Boudrias being picked off.
Yeah, right now you just want to have Nagle get a good swing on it, put the ball in play. He's had a couple nice cuts during this at bat against Reiling. Just hasn't quite caught up to him.
Reiling again on 3-2. Burns the outside corner for a called strike 3. Back-to-back strikeouts for J.P. Reiling. The Beacons scored just 1 in the 6th. Still they stretch their lead, 4-0, heading to the 7th on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
The University of Massachusetts Boston. It's just minutes from downtown, and the Princeton Review calls it one of the best values in the country. A nationally recognized institution of academic excellence and research, UMass Boston offers more than 150 undergraduate and graduate programs, 16 Division III sports, and more than 100 student organizations. To learn more about the opportunities waiting for you at UMass Boston, visit in person or online. UMass Boston, a research university with a teaching soul.
We move to the 7th inning. It's 4-0 UMass Boston. Fernando Burgos remains in the game. He's worked through 6 scoreless innings, giving up just 5 hits. He has struck out 7. He'll face 5, 6, 7 in the order: Kasper, Day, and Greene. Defensive changes for the Beacons. Eddie Riley goes into the game in Nick Herzog's spot in the order. That's the 5 spot in the Beacons order. But Riley will play second base. And the second baseman, Danny Brown, will move out to right field, the spot that Herzog leaves. So Riley into second, Brown to right. Again, 5, 6, 7 for the Salem State Vikings, the MASCAC champions last year. And after winning the MASCAC, they also won 2 games in the New England Regional before being eliminated. Both the Beacons and the Vikings picked up 2 games in their regionals in the NCAA tournament.
And Bill, one other change. Herzog's now in left, so Nagle's the one who comes out of the game.
So Nick Herzog moves to left field. Nagle leaves the game, and that means that Riley's actually in the 6th spot in the order.
And with Riley struggling a little bit hitting, that keeps him from hitting until the Beacons bat around the next time around.
Pitch to Kasper outside. It's 1-1, and theoretically, Beacons, if the scoreline holds, would need to have a couple runners reach base to get around to Riley.
I certainly hope they can tack on a couple of runs, but the way Burgos is gone, if he can avoid that big inning, if he can avoid potentially walking a couple batters and having some big hits, the Beacons might not need that much more insurance, as Burgos is pretty dominant thus far.
Kasper is singled and grounded out today. He takes a low strike there, and the count's 2-2.
How many times have you said that today? A low strike. That was the focus, and he's done a really nice job of keeping everything low.
2-2 delivery in the dirt, so a bit too low there, and it's 3-2 to Kasper, who hits ahead of Nick Day and Brenton Greene. The bottom of the order has been the strength for Salem State today. Galimi, the 8-hole hitter, has a double. The 7-hole hitter, Greene, doubled in the 5th inning.
And the original 9-hole hitter, Maddox Fisher, worked a walk.
Yep. Payoff pitch. Fouled away, so still 3-2. Kasper will see a 7th pitch of this at-bat, so if nothing else, runs Burgos' pitch count higher and higher. So he's thrown more than 80 pitches now.
Yeah, this is a rare 3-ball count for Fernando. He's done a nice job of limiting it to, say, maybe 3 or 4 batters today.
Too far down and away there. It's ball 4. Kasper walks. Second Burgos walk today, and that'll be it. So Fernando Burgos was on a short leash, and he looks to the heavens as he loses the leadoff batter, and he's done for the day. Brendan Eigebrodt makes the call to the bullpen.
Yeah, really frustrated, and this is twofold. A, Fernando wanted to go deeper, and you'd like to see him go deeper, but I think Brendan Eigebrodt had an idea today, and it was, I want to have Fernando Burgos leave this game with confidence. If he pitches well, I'm going to take him out at a point where no matter what, he's not going to feel like he didn't have his best stuff. Burgos with just the 2 walks after giving up a half dozen his last time out. And now, no matter what, he's not on the line for the loss. He's going to feel good about his stuff and about his abilities heading into Southern Maine next Tuesday in a game that means a lot more to the Beacons than this particular contest.
The line for Burgos, 6+ innings, 5 hits, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. He is responsible for the base runner Kasper, but at most would allow just the 1 run.
And who else? It's Brian Kaufman.
So the Beacons bring Kaufman back in only a couple days after he pitched 4 2/3 innings of relief to pick up a win against Rhode Island College.
Oh, when you're going good and you're a guy who is used to pitching multiple days, Kaufman has been a guy who maybe the Beacons didn't think they were going to go to in some big games, but last year he got the start against Western Connecticut State in the LEC semifinals. Is it the winner of that game went to the championship game. He also pitched significant amount in the NCAA regional game, when in the 4th NCAA regional game against Kane University. Has just been phenomenal this year, pitching in each of the past 2 Saturday game 2s.
Kaufman, a junior out of Farmingdale, New York. 6 foot, 180 pounds. This season in 6 games, he has a 1-0 record, a .83 ERA. That is just a tiny ERA. He's pitched 21 2/3 innings, given up only 19 hits and 2 earned runs. He has walked only 6 in those 21 2/3 innings while striking out 11. So he will pitch to contact, but he doesn't hurt himself.
Brian's not a guy who throws tremendously hard, but he's the guy who, just like Fernando's, he keeps it down. He's going to beat you with his breaking stuff, and he's going to try to induce soft contact. And that's what Burgos did a really nice job of today, and it's what the Beacons hope they can continue doing. It seems like Salem State, just like the Beacons, are a team that hits hard pitching well. Well, they're not going to get that with Brian Kaufman. He's not a guy who's going to throw overpowering fastballs, but he's going to try to lull you to sleep with the soft stuff and then throw a fastball past you when you're not expecting it.
Kaufman's trying to be the bridge to Bobby Tremendozzi, the Beacon closer. Tremendozzi has 4 saves this season, a 1.72 ERA. So if the Beacons can bring the lead to him, he's one of the best in this region in terms of closing the games out at the end of the day.
And the nice part with Kaufman is a guy who's a middle reliever or a starter or a late inning guy. His last 2 Saturdays, he's come in first when JT Morin was injured against UMass Dartmouth, and then this past Saturday when Matt Tully ran into a little bit of control issues. He's come in with runners on base in the middle of an inning, and he's been able to close out the inning, got a double play ball on Saturday. He's not a guy who's not used to coming into situations like that, because sometimes some pitchers just aren't confident unless they're starting an inning.
Designated hitter Nick Day takes ball 1. Kaufman went 4 2/3 scoreless innings against Rhode Island College on Saturday in Game 2, a Beacon 7-4 win. 1-0. Just missed low. 2 balls and no strikes to Nick Day. One of the power hitters for this Salem State team is 2 home runs and 12 RBIs. So Kaufman needs to stay out of the middle of the plate even at 2-0.
Yeah, you got to figure this is a fastball count. See what Kaufman goes with, whether he tries to slip a breaking ball in there or just tries to throw a low fastball, something that can't really be driven.
2-0, high fastball that buzzes back Day. Beacon pitchers in danger of walking the first 2 batters of this 7th inning. In a game they lead 4-0.
Yeah, the exact opposite of what you want to do after picking up an extra run. And as you pointed out in the top half of the inning, would that potential base running blunder cause the Beacons to regret it potentially? Well, this is not what the Beacons want to do, giving Salem State some extra base runners.
That's a strike straight down Broadway. 3 balls and 1 strike today. Behind Day, Brendan Greene, the leading hitter for this Salem State team. 3-1 today. That's ball 4. Back-to-back walks to start this inning, and this one from a guy in Kaufman who doesn't walk many, just his 7th this year in 21 2/3 innings.
Yeah, not a great first batter, just has to come back. The nice thing right now for UMass Boston is this is their best and closest to normal defensive alignment. Sal Frustino's not out there in center, but Hughie's been the shortstop. Boudrias has been the third baseman for the most part. They've had a carousel of second baseman because of the injury to Lopez, but Riley's more of an infielder than Danny Brown is. And the Beacons have 3 true outfielders out there with good speed in all 3 positions.
Brendan Greene, a .395 hitter, is 1 for 2 today. He grounded into a double play in the 2nd. He doubled in the 5th. Kaufman throws a breaking ball, hacked foul. Well, he'd sign up for that double play ball right about now.
Absolutely. I don't know what Greene was doing. Just saw Kaufman walk the first batter he faced and took a pitch that was well inside and chopped it off softly. Not what you want to do when a guy maybe is a little erratic, giving him a first pitch strike.
4-0 UMass Boston, top 7. Pitch from Kaufman, breaking ball, grounded to short, slow developing. Hughie to second for 1. Relay to first, picked out, but not in time on a bang-bang play.
As close as it possibly could have gotten, and the real issue there is the ball didn't quite get to Hughie quick enough at shortstop. A nice turn from Riley. Love to get it over there in the air, but good hustle from the runner heading down the first base line, and that's huge because now you can potentially score a run with the sacrifice fly, even a soft ground out on the right side, or even deep to the shortstop if the Beacons can't turn 2.
Now, Greene's the top base runner. 3 stolen bases for Salem State, so he has good speed, and that chopper was hit slow enough that it made it a really tough turn for the Beacons. Runners on the corners for Tyler Galimi, who doubled back in the 3rd, struck out in the 5th. Swings at a slider here. Starting to see Kaufman use that breaking ball a bit more.
Galimi went to a knee there, was a little bit over-eager to try to drive one over the monster and cut into this deficit.
Brian Kaufman relieving Fernando Burgos, the runner on 3rd. Burgos' responsibility. Runner on 1st, Kaufman's responsibility. Both Kasper and Day reached on walks.
Big crowd today, easily the largest of the season, with a lot of student athletes coming out along with friends and family.
Helps when it was 84 degrees middle of the day and still is in the mid-60s.
You know, I'll give the softball team credit. They've been showing up no matter what the temperature, along with some members of the volleyball team and the women's soccer team. It's the first time we've seen the big tough guys of the men's hockey team out here for a game.
A 1 in tight for a ball. It's 1-1. Calling him out, Seth.
Yeah, I think they can take it. I think they get much worse from Peter Belisle as well.
1 ball, 1 strike, 1 down. Tyler Galimi, the batter, in the 8th spot, but he's a .368 hitter for Salem State.
There's no weakness in this lineup. That's the tough part.
Ground ball to 3rd. Boudrias to second for 1. Another turn back to 1st, and this time it's in time. 5-4-3 double play, and Kaufman escapes the 7th unscathed.
Trust your defense. That's what the Beacons' 2 pitchers have done all night long. A pair of guys who don't throw that hard, but they throw low, some sinker balls. That's 3 double plays turned on the day and no errors. The Beacons using their defense to their advantage.
Time to stretch at Monin Park. Still 4-0 UMass Boston on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
Celebrate the soggy shoes and the slow starts. Celebrate the lessons learned along the way. These are the wins. Not the shiny, nail-biting kind. These are the last a lifetime kind.
Bottom of the 7th at Monin Park, 4-0 UMass Boston. The Beacons escape again with runners on first and third and one out. Brian Kaufman induces the ground ball double play. Salem State has left 7 runners on base, 4 in scoring position already. See if we can take a look at that double play ball on the replay. Somewhere down the line here. Outstanding work from UMass Boston in the middle infield. They almost turned the double play earlier in the inning, and then the next opportunity, they get Galimi to bounce out 5-4-3.
And it's just so huge when you have a pair of guys who are used to playing shortstop. I mean, it gives you a big advantage. And Riley, a really nice turn there, is playing at second base currently because he's had a little bit of issues fielding some balls at shortstop, and second base takes a little bit of pressure off you defensively, and a nice job there from the Franklin Pierce transfer.
J.P. Riling remains in the game on the mound for Salem State. He got 3 outs back in inning number 6 out of the pen, including a couple of strikeouts. He was also helped out by a runner picked off the base paths. First pitch to Anthony Searles is taken low for a ball. Searles is 0 for 1 today, but he swung it pretty well. Line drive to the shortstop, and then a walk back in the 4th.
Strong at bats, just like Luke Nagle. Doesn't have a hit. As that one could not have felt good from Duvall. It fouled right back off the mask and high off the netting. If he can continue to swing a hot bat, well, if he can continue to swing at the right pitches, I should say, the hot bat will come. But if he can continue to swing at the right pitches, be selective, get on base, he's still going to be helping the Beacons offense.
1-1. Almost hit Searles, and it did. It clipped him. You could hear that double contact. Anthony Searles is on base again.
Helps the OBP. If nothing else, you don't need to get hits to get on base, and Searles has reached twice today.
Well, he does what you expect a senior captain, a catcher, and a high IQ player to do. Even hitting at 136, his on-base percentage is over 300. Beacons will pinch hit again here. Lionel Danielson pinch hits for Joey Rogers. 4th different player to go into the number 8 spot in the order today.
And I'd expect this would mean Danny Brown would move for a 3rd time today from right over to center, as Danielson is more of a right fielder.
Danielson swings at strike 1. Danielson is 2 for 11 this season. He's played in 14 games with 3 starts, but he's a speedster if he can get aboard.
He's also a guy who likes the warm weather, and that's not as much of a surprise out of St. Croix, Virgin Islands.
Bunted down the third base line and foul. Yeah, he's a guy who did not grow up playing baseball on 40-degree April days the way Fernando Burgos did.
No, in fact, 40 degrees, I don't know how often that happens down in the Virgin Islands, but it's certainly not a 6-month affair like it is here in New England.
I would guess very rarely. The 0-2.
Probably no baseball in those days either.
Outside, it's 1-2. Yep. So Danielson's taken the place of Rogers, who took the place of McCormick, who took the place of Frashino. You following that there at the 8-hole today?
Beacon's just trying to get creative, trying to get the matchups they want, and trying to get guys at bats. After all, with so many games, we keep talking about 10 games in 12 days with the pitcher's perspective, but you're also probably going to have to give some guys days off. At some point, Searles is going to have to take his seat just to rest his legs.
1-2. Danielson watches high. It's 2-2.
But also, if you have an injury, especially to a guy like Herzog, you might need someone, or if just trying to figure out that left field spot where they've gone with McCormick a lot recently. He'll continue getting chances, but Danielson's a guy you know can be capable of starting as well.
2-2, swings through it. He's down on strikes.
Chased the pitch well outside the zone, a fastball tailing away, and Lionel's going to be frustrated at that.
Third strikeout for J.P. Riling in just an inning and a third of relief. Bullpen's been very good for Salem State. Bell and Riling have combined for 5 innings of work. They've given up just the 1 run. Beacon scored 3 runs in the first against starter Tim Woods. Their only other run came last inning.
And it's funny, the Beacons have actually had more success against the top 2 arms today for Salem State than the guy who came in with the ERA north of 9.
about 16.71 coming
I was trying to
in?
be nice. I mean, it's certainly a lot lower after today's performance.
It is. So he goes with the 1 earned run allowed in his 3 1/3 innings of work. He's now pitched 10 1/3 and allowed 14 runs. The ERA will probably be something much smaller as this is drilled down the line, but foul. Well struck by Hughie, who does have a home run this season.
But it was a breaking ball, and Searles had a good jump. In that situation, 1-0, maybe think about put the runner at second base. I understand the eyes get juicy on the breaking ball, but just so far out ahead. And I think anytime you see a runner taking off, it's going to affect you one way or another.
Ball on his strike, and the pickoff throw to Searles this time. He's back in safely. Hughie, then the top of the order, Danny Brown, Dan Mantoni, Kyle Boudrias. The Beacons look to go up by 5 or more here in this bottom of the 7th. Salem State's offense is potent. They average 7.7 runs a game. So even though they've been quiet through 7, you never know. So you look to build some insurance here. They scored 36 runs over their last 3 games.
Yeah, you look at the teams that have shut them out. Endicott in the opener. Probably faced one of the Gulls' top pitchers. Endicott, a really strong team out of the CCC. And then shut out by Bates, who's having a really good season up in Maine, one of the top teams in the NESCAC. And then that 7-4 loss to Bridgewater, surprising. Bridgewater State not known for their top pitching.
1-2. Popped up right side of the infield. Second baseman Greene moving over, takes charge, and makes the catch. Fighting through the lights there. There's 2 down.
It was funny watching all 3 guys there on the right side. The first baseman, Searles, and Greene over at second base. Searles was thinking maybe this ball is going to fall, I have a chance, and then all of a sudden he found the ball and then looked at Greene right behind him and had to duck back into first base, as that was a towering pop off the bat of Hughie.
2 out, it's back to Danny Brown, who has struck out twice and lined out to left today. Searles dives back on the pickoff throw. Wouldn't be totally surprising to see him on the move here, looking to get into scoring position with 2 outs.
Yeah, he's already been thrown out once with 2 outs. He was taking off on that second pitch to Hughie.
That was a pitch out, and Duvall pops up with no movement, 1-0. Remember, it is a different catcher now. Earlier on, it was Maddox Fisher. Now it's Zach Duvall, but Duvall's shown a strong arm. He picked off Boudrias from second. 1-0, plunks Brown. He's aboard, and he seems to pretty happily take that one down to first. It extends the inning to the suddenly heating up Dan Mantoni, who's 2 for 3 today.
Well, I think if you're Danny Brown and your batting average isn't all that great, you're willing to jump on base, because anytime you get on base, at least in the minds of the coaching staff, hey, he's doing something right. He's played well defensively today in 2 different spots, second and right. Likely will end up in center field after this half inning. And it gives the Beacons' top 3 hitters, the hottest 3 hitters, a chance to add on to this lead. Mantoni, Boudrias, and Fowler, really the 3 guys who are riding hot in this lineup.
Single and a double today for Mantoni, along with a ground out. He has scored twice. Good block from Duvall, keeps the runners put at first and second.
Riley's throwing it hard, but doesn't seem to have a ton of control today. He's had a couple pitches bounce up there. He's had a couple fastballs go very high, and then he's hit a pair of batters.
Yeah. Both this inning came in with good control. He'd only walked 6 in his first 12 innings of college work. Mantoni rolls over this one to third. Easy play for Dan Connors, and that does it for the 7th. Beacons do not score. We go to the 8th. Still 4-0 UMass Boston. Back at Monin Park with Seth Arensky, Bill Spalding. Brian Kaufman remains in the game for UMass Boston. Nick Herzog continues his transit back and forth from the corners in the outfield. He moves from left to right. Lionel Danielson, who pinch hit last inning, moves into left, and Danny Brown is now in center field. I need a bigger scorebook.
I mean, this is tinkering and tailoring from head coach Brendan Eigerbolt. The good news is you're getting a lot of guys, a little bit of action, getting them some defensive reps as well. But, yeah, I mean, I'm not keeping a book today, and that's the only reason that my scorebook isn't all messed up. Herzog's gone from, right to left, back to right, but Danny Brown has gone from second to right to center, so we'll see if he goes to left in the ninth and really confuses things.
So the defense looks like this. Danielson in left, Brown in center, Herzog in right. Boudrias still at third, Hugie still at second. Eddie Riley, a defensive replacement at second base with Hugie at short, Chris Fowler at first, and Anthony Searles still the catcher. 9-hole hitter Zach Duvall leads off against Brian Kaufman and takes a first pitch strike. Kaufman entered last inning in relief of Burgos. Got a fielder's choice and then a 5-4-3 double play to strand runners on first and third.
And, Bill, the other thing about this is it means the Beacons have even better arms out in the outfield. Danielson's arm is certainly stronger than Rogers. He is an absolute cannon in left. And Brown has a very good arm in center as well.
0-2 count to Duvall. Final line on Burgos, 6+ innings, 5 hits, no runs. He walked 2, he struck out 7. Again, against an offense that was hitting .328 as a team coming in. Bobby Tremendozzi, the Beacons closer, still available if they need him in the 9th, though right now it's not a safe situation.
There is a righty up in the Beacons' pen.
0-2 misses outside, and it's 1-2.
It's not a safe situation for Tremendozzi, but I believe if Kaufman finishes this off, he came on with a runner on a 4-0 lead.
So
he could be in line for a rare save.
If he pitches all the way through. Fly ball, center field, hangs up, and it's run down by Danny Brown, 1 down.
Now, that ball was barreled just within range of Danny Brown, a rare hard hit ball to the outfield by Salem State.
And Kaufman, by the way, entering, if he gets the final 9 outs, I'm pretty sure that ends up being a save regardless when he goes 3 innings or more out of the bullpen to close out the game. So if he can finish things off, he would get the win last time out and the save this time.
I'm sure if the Beacons especially get another run or two, they would be willing, although Kaufman has been so valuable this season. You don't want to overwork the arm and have him available potentially for Saturday, if not maybe for an inning on Thursday, as he's worked quickly thus far.
A strike to Alex Toomey. Coming up for the Beacons, they'll play Roger Williams tomorrow on the road at 3:30, at Babson on Thursday at 3:30, and then it's a Saturday series with Eastern Connecticut State before a Monday home game against Roger Williams and a Tuesday game against the University of Southern Maine back in conference play again.
Yeah, it's just a wild period that's been made a little bit more difficult, or at least a few more games involved because of all of the postponements back in late March when the teams got back from Florida.
Breaking ball dives outside. Throw in the fact that most of these guys load their courses early in the morning so that they can be out in time for practice and games. It's a busy stretch for the Beacons over the next 2 weeks.
Made all the easier by Monin Park. And when they were back at Campanelli Field in Brockton, this would have been made much tougher.
Pop straight up. Searles reacts quickly and puts it away.
And while we have a moment, we'll take a look at that inning-ending double play from the last inning for UMass Boston. In this lineup, that's the tough
Take
part.
a look at Ground ball to third. Boudrias to second for one. Another turn back to first, and this time it's in time.
In this lineup, that's the tough part. 3 double plays turned by UMass Boston. So huge when you have confidence in your defense, and the defense has confidence in the pitcher, and that's what's been the case today because Burgos and Kaufman have both worked quickly.
Slow roller, Boudrias throwing on the run offline. It's an infield single for Andrew Deloury, 6th hit of the day for Salem State.
Yeah, just not much Boudrias could do there. A slow chopper, picked it up, double clutched a little bit, and the good news is with 2 outs, a little bit more manageable as Kaufman will go directly after the hitter.
Here's 3-hole hitter Dan Connors, singled in the first. He's grounded out twice since. Swung at the first pitch each of the last 2 at-bats.
Sporting a nice little mustache there as well.
He is.
Good work from our first base camera angle.
Connor's tallest guy on the roster at 6'4". He also is about 215 pounds. Oh, and that hit him right on the elbow.
Anthony Searles asking if the arm was out over the plate. Not going to win that battle as Brendan Eigerbrodt normally comes charging out, but he looks over to Searles, hears something, and will head back to the dugout.
So 2 on for Joe White with 2 down. Tying run still in the on-deck circle for Salem State here in the 8th.
And how huge is that insurance run now? Because any of these guys in the middle of the order could certainly hit a ball out, especially with the wind blowing out today. But that 4th run gives the Beacons a little bit more breathing room at this point.
White's a .361 hitter, and he wants time. Salem State has stranded 7 runners on base. Stranded runners in scoring position in the 3rd, the 5th, and the 7th.
And the Beacons turn double plays in the 1st, the 4th, and the 6th?
1st, 2nd, and 7th.
Oh, well.
You're close.
I mean, I picked 3 random innings. I remembered 1.
Within an inning every time.
Yeah, for sure. Either way, Salem State has certainly had their chances today. It's just hasn't necessarily been their night offensively.
1-0, slides low. Searles snaps it back, and seemed like he had it slip out of his hand. He might have had the base runner Connors with a strong throw.
I think if that's a right-handed batter, Searles also has a much easier time. It looks like he struggled to get around the batter. You're not going to get interference called there very frequently, but Searles certainly didn't have an easy time getting around the batter and then getting the ball out.
2-0. That's a strike. Good pitch on the outside corner from Kaufman.
This might be the last batter for Kaufman. I believe that's Trey Mendoza warming up out in the bullpen, and if Burgos had a quick pull, I would imagine that they'd have a quick pull for Kaufman as well.
And they've been flipping the hat out there in center field, which is the signal that the pitcher's ready if needed. 2-1, grounded up the middle. Tough play at second. Riley got it and takes it to the bag himself. Eddie Riley showing off his range. It's a fielder's choice for White, and again, Salem State strands 2 on base. Getting the runners, but haven't been able to punch them home. We head to inning number 8, the bottom half of the 8th, and it's still 4-0 Beacons.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, I can accomplish it.
It's a well-rounded experience.
At a Division III school, you primarily a student athlete, so the school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual.
It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
Ryan Kelleher is the new pitcher for Salem State. Big right-hander, 6'4", 225 pounds from Hanover, Massachusetts. Kelleher so far this season has numbers that look like this. He's pitched in 5 games, 1 start, 0-1 record, 7.71 ERA, 11 2/3 innings, pitched 24 hits. He's given up 10 runs. He's only walked 2, and he struck out 8. But the issue is that opponent's batting average. It's .429 against Kelleher so far this season. His job is just to keep it a 4-run game heading to the 9th to give Salem State a chance. Right now, though, Beacons will hit 3, 4, 5 in the order looking for some insurance. Kyle Boudrias, Chris Fowler, and Nick Herzog. Bill Spalding with you on the Beacons Broadcast Network alongside Seth Orensky. Beautiful day in Boston today, and the Beacons have gotten an outstanding pitching performance. 6 scoreless innings for Fernando Burgos, 2 more for Brian Kaufman. Those two have worked their way out of some jams. Salem State is 0 for 9 today with runners in scoring position. So Kyle Boudrias will lead things off, singled in his last at-bat to extend his hitting streak to 9 games. He's also reached on an error and lined out. He scored one of UMass Boston's 4 runs. First pitch from Kelleher is a called strike. Final line on J.P. Reiling, 2 innings pitched. He did not give up a hit. He walked 1, he hit 2 batters, did not allow a run. That's in the dirt, skipping away from the catcher Duvall. One ball, 1 strike count to Boudrias, a .375 hitter this season. He's 16 for his last 36 as he takes this one low.
He's a guy that the Beacons coaching staff last year thought could hit 400. Didn't miss by much. And you just look at it, a patient approach, a really sweet stroke, a guy who will likely end his career with well over 150, maybe close to 200 hits.
Swung through a changeup there. He was out in front. It's 2-2 on Kelleher, who's looking to lower his opponent's batting average, currently .429. 2-2 to Boudrias. Floater, left center field, falling quickly, and that bloops in for a base hit in front of Joe White. Second hit for Boudrias.
Bill, it's been a weird night. We saw the closer for Salem State get to start, Tim Woods, the best reliever on the team statistically, come in and pitch in the 6th, and now the guy that the Beacons, at least on their charts, predicted would start, coming in the 8th. So Salem State not pitching backwards in the traditional sense, but certainly a little bit different today.
You and I are on the same wavelength. I was literally just going to say, well, you've heard of pitching backwards. Here it is.
Well, sometimes great minds think alike. I'll take having a mind in the same wavelength as yourself.
Boudrias on with a leadoff single. Chris Fowler hits. He doubled all the way back in the 1st off the wall in center. And now we'll have a discussion here. Brendan Eigebrodt coming out. He's calling Fowler over. He's calling Boudrias over. So he's using one of his conferences with the hitter and base runner here.
This is interesting. Boudrias was picked off second the last time, but these aren't the guys you normally see in motion. Talking about Boudrias with that 150 to 200 hits, Dave Wahlberg, the UMass Boston SID, gave me a look like I was crazy, but already was 75 for his career. Has, 2 today, so he's up to 75 midway through his sophomore season.
Yeah, so he's on pace for
it could
more than 150.
Certainly could happen, especially with a couple of deep runs.
Pitch is slid down and in for ball 1 to Chris Fowler.
I mean, 54 a year ago, that's what you're looking for. 50-plus hits every season, and he had 54 as a freshman. Certainly didn't take long to adjust.
One 0 to Fowler. Skips away from the catcher Duvall, and Boudrias is up to second base again on a wild pitch.
Yeah, the Beacons have done a really nice job today judging those balls in the, not the dirt, but the red turf, which would be dirt on a normal infield, and doing a nice job taking the bases that were there.
By the way, Boudrias is up to 23 hits already this season with 16 more games still to go before the playoffs.
Yeah, and with
swings through this one for a strike. Fowler's up in the count 2-1.
Beacons played 8 extra games, so that would be, I mean, there's no guarantee the Beacons make a deep run in the LEC tournament, make a deep run in the NCAA regional, but if you can do that a couple times, you're talking about an extra 8 games, extends the season, add 10 to 12 hits, and then it becomes a much easier trip to 200.
3 ball, 1 strike count to Fowler. 1 for 2 today, a double, a walk, and a fly out to left. Great count for Fowler here. And he takes a ball. Seemed like Kelleher really didn't want a whole lot to do with Fowler with first base open. So 2 on, nobody out for Nick Herzog.
No, especially at 3-1, you don't want to give Fowler, who's just so hot at this point, a chance to drive one and extend the lead. Now you have two guys who aren't all that fast on the base pass. Nick Herzog, who does run pretty well, but you want to get the lead runner here, potentially turn 2. And the other thing is the Beacons have already pulled a couple of their starters, so the Beacons line at this point a little bit more defensive oriented. There might be some easier outs in the lineup, especially than Chris Fowler.
There is action right now in the Salem State bullpen. The visit to talk to Kelleher, who has surrendered a single and a walk in the first 2 batters he's faced.
There's action, but they certainly don't want to go any deeper than they already have to. This is pitcher number 4. Kelleher is a guy who, as a starter by trade, you'd expect him to be able to go at least 1 inning in this one.
Playing for small ball, Herzog pulls back and takes ball 1. Nick Herzog single, lined out and struck out. He's 1 for 3.
This was the situation last time when Boudrias was picked off after a missed bunt by Herzog, so he's got to be a bit more careful.
Herzog takes another ball. It's 2-0. You wonder if he maybe starts getting the green light to swing away in a hitter's count.
If it's me, I just keep having him show butt. It just seems like Kelleher's trying to be a little bit too fine here instead of just trying to find the bat and get the out.
Ryan Kelleher sets his pitch. There's a strike on the outside corner. It's 2-1. Beacons up 4-0, 3 in the first, 1 in the 6th to lead here over Salem State in the bottom of the 8th.
Saw Bobby Barrett, the Beacons' third base coach, on your camera.
On 2-1, pitch bunted beautifully down the third base line. Gonna be a tough play, and Herzog safe. Bunt single.
It's funny, right before the Beacons came out for batting practice, Boston College High School, who the Beacons share this field with, they put down cones on the third base side and the first base side. They were trying to leave a bunt within the cones, a perfect area, and that would have been right in the middle of that perfect triangle of, you're probably not just going to get the successful bunt down, probably going to have a bunt single, and with Herzog's speed, an easy bunt single, nothing that Salem State could do defensively.
Bases loaded, nobody out in the first at bat today for Eddie Riley, who entered as a defensive replacement in inning number 7. Takes a called strike. Riley hitting at 194. He is 7 for 36 with 4 RBIs. Infield drawn in here for Salem State, already down by 4. Kelleher deals breaking ball, and Riley swung through it.
Swung through a ball that was in the turf. If you're Riley here, you just want to hit the ball hard. Even if you hit the ball hard to where it normally would be an out, you might have a ball skip past an infielder with the turf. If you can put the ball in play, you give yourself a good chance to score at least 1 run.
Riley's a junior from nearby Quincy, went to Archbishop Williams High School. 0-2, curveball, just stayed up.
I don't know how he takes that pitch. That looked awfully good from up here. It was down the middle, just a little bit high. And he hit the ball really well in Florida, just right at a lot of guys. Didn't get as many hits as he might have deserved.
1-2, way outside. What a block by Duvall. Keeps everybody put, sliding a good 1.5 or 2 feet to his right.
Kelleher was looking for Riley to chase another pitch. That one, though, way too far out of zone. And Duvall, a great job. This might be their 3rd catcher, but it just shows the depth on this Salem State team.
2-2. Hit hard through the infield. It's a base hit for Riley. Boudrias scores. Fowler holds. Bases stay loaded. 5-0 Beacons.
Bill, that's an out normally. That ball is right into where a shortstop normally plays, but because the infield's in, shortstop couldn't quite get to it. Galimi made an effort, and that might be it for Kelleher as the Beacons just taking advantage here. They haven't hit the ball particularly well since the first inning, but scratching across another big insurance run.
That was crushed by Riley. 3 hits in the 4 batters, plus a walk for Ryan Kelleher, who leaves the game without recording it out. 5-0 UMass Boston. So important insurance runs here for the Beacons against a highly touted offensive team. Even though they've been kept under wraps today, you want to build that cushion moving forward.
Well, you look at UMass Boston just in their last game on Sunday. They trailed 4-3 heading into the 9th, caught a break when a Charlie Hughey pop-up hit off the glove of the second baseman for Rhode Island College. May have been fair, may have been foul. Beacons thought it was fair. The Anchorman were convinced it was foul. Either way, it went the Beacons' way. They caught that break, and then they scored 4 runs in the 9th inning, earned the 7-4 victory. So you can never be too safe. Just the other week, a team down in Dallas at the Division III level scored 8 runs with 2 outs in the 9th in a comeback victory.
Still looking for a number on this pitcher. Here it is. Matt Stanley, the freshman from Lynn, Massachusetts, out of Lynn Classical, comes in, relieving Ryan Kelleher. Kelleher went no innings, gave up 3 hits and a walk. Already 1 run. He's responsible for the 3 on base as well. So Matt Stanley is the new pitcher. He's made 3 appearances in his college career. He's pitched 3 1/3 innings with an 8.10 ERA. He's given up 2 hits in those 3 1/3 innings. 3 runs. He has walked 3. He hasn't struck anybody out. Opponents are hitting just 182 against him, but again, the 3 walks haven't helped him, and one of those 2 hits he's allowed was a double, which brought a couple of runs home. And when you pitch limited innings as a reliever, all it takes is 1 bad inning to really spike that ERA up.
Well, if you're Plymouth State right now, who faces Salem State tomorrow, you're welcome, because the Beacons have made a couple of maybe extra pitchers for Salem State have to throw today, including their top 2. So Salem might be a little bit more ripe for the picking tomorrow for the Panthers.
You mentioned there could be rain and thunderstorms tomorrow. You'd think Salem State might be rooting for the rain.
Well, Salem State, remember, though, has a turf facility that's not a mini Fenway Park, but it is very beautiful. The Beacons and UMass Dartmouth played a conference doubleheader up there a couple of years ago, UMass Dartmouth conference doubleheader. But they certainly could potentially push the game back and play it if need be. And that's, remember, there's thunderstorms in the forecast. That doesn't mean we're actually going to get thunderstorms.
I'm just saying you might be rooting for it if you're a Salem State coach or a Salem State fan.
Let's see what time that game's supposed to start. The rain's supposed to stop around 4 p.m. And Salem is hosting Plymouth State at 3:30. So who knows? Maybe just a rain delay. You don't see that many rain delays here at the Division III level, though. Normally it just gets postponed.
Batter is Anthony Searles with the bases loaded. 1 run already in, 5-0 Beacons, and Searles swings through it. He's walked, been hit by a pitch, and lined out today.
Yeah, this is a situation where infield in still. Maybe Anthony can hit a ball through a hole or just hit the ball deep enough, trying to find a way to help his team and break out of this slump. He's had a good day at the plate today despite not getting a hit.
0-1 pitch from Stanley, swung on and missed, and he's come in to throw 2 quick strikes.
Yeah, it's always tough when you're the first batter to face a new pitcher. You get those 7 pitches of warm-up, but it's different when you're actually in the box seeing it live.
Lionel Danielson is on deck for the Beacons here, the 0-2 for Searles. Lines it down the line, hooking, and it is a foul ball.
Didn't miss by much. That one just out of my sight line down the line. But, Bill, I don't think that missed the paint there by maybe more than 4 inches.
It's an emphatic call by the umpire. Couldn't see it in the corner there.
Well, we've got our stats guy who's saying maybe 4 to 5 inches. Either way, a nice piece of hitting from Searles where that easily would have scored the run even if it had been caught by the left fielder.
Now at 0-2. In tight for a ball. It's 1-2. Bases loaded, 1 run in, bottom 8. Beacons leading 5-0. They've held a Salem State offense that averages 7.7 runs a game completely off the board. 1-2. Searles fights off a tough breaking ball.
Yeah, Anthony doing a really nice job. Just defensive at-bat there. Knew that he wasn't going to be able to do much with it, able to foul it back to the stop and stay alive, as we have seen a pretty wide strike zone today from Mike Rabideau. I think that one would have been high enough for a called strike 3.
Matt Stanley delivers. Breaking ball hit hard to third. Stopped by the third baseman Connors. The throw home is in time for out number 1.
Good work there from Connors, and that's what you have to do. If you're really intent on coming back in this game, get the lead runner, hope that you can get a double play ball the next time around. As the Beacons still have the bases loaded, but now it's 1 down, and they're going to keep the infield in. Danielson looking for his first hit, another guy who hasn't had a tremendous season offensively yet.
Danielson, a tough guy to double, so part of the reason why you might leave the infield in here. Herzog on third, Riley on second, Searles on first, and there's ball one.
Yeah, I don't think Lionel thought he was getting 2 at-bats today. Came on as a pinch hitter in the 7th, I believe.
Yes, he hit last inning, was struck out swinging for out number 1 in the 7th. Hits this one hard to third again. Connor steps on third for one, long throw, and he turns the double play, 5-3. What a finish by Dan Connors at third base. And Salem State at least keeps it somewhat interesting. We'll head to the 9th, 5-0 Beacons on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
What separates UMass Boston from other schools is the fact that a large percentage of students commute. For me, it takes 2 hours each day to go to and from school, but every second has been worth it because the students that come here are serious about learning, they value their education, and understand where it'll take them in the future. This is what UMass Boston means to me.
Here comes the Beacons closer, Bobby Tramandozzi, looking to finish off a shutout and an impressive pitching performance against Salem State, a team that averaged 7.7 runs a game. Tramandozzi's a sophomore from Peabody, out of Peabody Veterans High School, and this season he has been stellar at the back end of the bullpen. 1-1, a 1.72 ERA in 10 games. 4 saves for Tramandozzi. He's pitched 15 2/3 innings, giving up 16 hits. He's only walked 2, and he struck out 17. So you know you're going to see strikes from Tramandozzi. He'll face 5, 6, 7 in the Salem State order: Joe Kasper, Nick Day, and Brendan Greene. Kasper is senior from Lynn, will lead things off against Tramandozzi. So you got that Lynn-Peabody rivalry going in this head-to-head matchup. Bobby Tramandozzi, 4 saves this season, that 1-run record, the Sterling ERA, and is that big key for him? He just throws strike ones, only 2 walks this entire season.
Bobby's a guy who does have a little bit of a rubber arm, and I think that's why he's coming in today. Once you get him warmed up, especially in a little bit of a close game, and with UMass Boston still in the back of their minds thinking, hey, we're 12-7, we still have a lot of big-name teams left on the schedule. They still potentially have 2 left with MIT. They still have a lot of the top teams here in the LEC. If you can win enough of these games, you can give yourself a potential backdoor way into the NCAA tournament. So they're not going to risk this. They're going to go to their top arm, hope Bobby T can close it out.
Joe Kasper bingos one up the middle for a base hit to start the 9th. Biggest difference in this game right now is how you've hit with runners in scoring position. It's a game where UMass Boston leads 5-0, but the hits are only 8-7. Salem State is 0 for 9 with runners in scoring position today. First pitch to Nick Day is taken for a called ball.
And a big part of it has been defense. The Beacons turned 3 double plays. They played really well behind Fernando Burgos, Brian Kaufman, and hopefully here behind Bobby Tramandozzi. Salem State only has the 1 error, and it was a tough one.
Tramandozzi throws it away down the first baseline, and there goes Kasper to second on the error.
But they just didn't turn any spectacular plays until this last half inning. That's probably the last thing you want to do if you're Bobby Tramandozzi, moving the runner up, taking the double play out of play here. Now you just got to settle down. The nice thing is you're a closer coming on with a 5-run lead. You're not worried about giving up 1.
The interesting thing, though, and you see that even at the big league level, oftentimes closers, when they come in a non-safe situation, they struggle. You don't have the same juices flowing that you have in a 1-run game. And Tramandozzi's pitch is cut on and missed.
And I'm not a sports psychologist. I can't break that down for you. But I will say Bobby's not a closer. He's a closer here. at UMass Boston this particular year, but he pitched in the 8th last year, the 7th, the 6th, and he was a starter at points. So he's not a guy who's only closed for the past couple years, has that mindset. A lot of times in the majors, you have guys who came up through the minors, they were only closers. They've only pitched as closers in the majors. That's a different mentality than someone who's used to coming in any different kind of spot.
Nasty hook has Tramandosi up in the count 1-2. The pitch. Swing and a miss. Tramandosi earns his first strikeout. Salem State's now 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position.
Well, that's also why he is the Beacons closer. That was just filthy. And it's difficult because Tramandosi has added a little bit velocity to his game. He's throwing pretty hard, but his off-speed stuff is where he's been so difficult to hit. And Tramandosi is having a phenomenal season. Has really been an easy plug-and-play after Manny Garcia didn't come back after being the Beacons closer all of last season.
Brendan Greene takes a fastball up and in. Greene 1 for 3 today, a double in the 5th. He's also grounded into a double play and bounced into a fielder's choice. Here's a 1-0. Slider, nasty again, and the count's 1-1.
The Beacons have thrown 3 guys who are pretty similar to each other. Burgos, Kaufman, and Tramandosi, who excel with the off-speed stuff, not necessarily a dominant fastball. And yet they all have significantly different enough stuff that it's causing problems still here in the 9th.
Pfister flared to right. It's a base hit. Kasper stops at third. There's the first hit of the day with runners in scoring position for Salem State, though it still does not score a run. 2 on, 1 down, and Tyler Galimi up in this same situation in the 7th with runners on the corners. Galimi hit into a 5-4-3 double play.
And honestly, the way this game is gone, I'm not saying it will happen, but it would make a lot of sense if this game would be capped off by a double play, the way the Beacons have played defensively and the way Salem State has struggled with runners in scoring position.
Galimi's also doubled and struck out today. Slider gets away from the catcher, Searles, and here comes Kasper. Sounds like the ruling is pass ball there that scores the opening run of the day, sends Greene to second, and wipes out any chance of a double play.
Well, win some, you lose some as a broadcaster. Sometimes you sound brilliant. Sometimes you look like the fool. And this time around, Tramandosi's stuff may be a little bit too good as it got just underneath Searles and it got back to the stop.
Won't ask you which one of those you have more experience with, as the 1-0 is swung on and missed, and the count moves to 1-1 on Galimi.
Say a fair amount of both. Maybe a little bit more of one or the other, but I'll let you guess on which. Depends on the night.
Bobby Tramandosi delivers the 1-1. Slider hit in the air, deep left field, still carrying the center fielder Brown in the gap, puts it away. Runner tagging Greene, heading for third, and he's there. Now that's a bold move by Brendan Greene, representing the final out of the game, but he took it pretty easily. So he's on third with 2 down. It's up to Zach Duvall.
Oh, I think the thought process is that ball is pretty deep, pretty much on the track out there for Brown. Haven't seen much of his arm. And just hoping that maybe the Beacons relay throw ends up in the dugout. You get another run, spark something here. Greene's not the run that matters, down 5-1, but you just want to see if you can get the Beacons to make some mistakes.
Duvall swings through, strike 1. Duvall is 0 for 1 today. He flew out in the 8th. He replaced Maddox Fisher, who had started the game behind the plate.
Saw a lot of different position players today.
We did. The 0-1. Swing and a miss. It's strike 2. Bobby Tramandosi's 1 strike away from finishing this one off and giving the Beacons a win in a matchup of 2 teams that qualified for the NCAA tournament last year.
Beacons looking for that 3rd consecutive win, first time ever against Salem State.
Here it comes from Tramandosi. Look at the slider for a called strike 3. 5-1, the Beacons win. And they've beaten Salem State in 3 consecutive games. Boy, that was filthy from Bobby Tramandosi to wrap things up. UMass Boston moves to 13-7. Salem State falls to 12-12. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap things up here on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and I know how powerful words can be. The term gay doesn't mean stupid, lame, or less than.
So I pledge to speak up if I hear the term gay used in a derogatory way or any other homophobic terms.
If you can play in Division III.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and my teammates unconditionally accepted me as part of their family. So now I pledge to do the same for others. If you can play in Division III.
At Monin Park, handshakes after a Beacons 5-1 win. UMass Boston picks up its third straight win. 5 runs on 8 hits and just 1 Beacon error. Salem State 1 run on 8 hits and 1 error, just 1 for 12 with runners in scoring position. So the Beacons defense and Seth Orensky, the Beacons strong pitching in clutch situations makes the difference today.
Yeah, hitting was not the story today. It was the Beacons' dominant pitching. You saw 3 of their best arms, with the exception of Dan Mantoni. You could probably say the 3 pitchers who have had the best seasons. Fernando Burgos had his best outing of the year, going 6+, not allowing an earned run. Brian Kaufman, 2 more scoreless innings. He's been phenomenal. And Bobby Tremendoza came on in the 9th. Maybe that a little bit of that closer, not used to a starting role, but giving up just the 1 run and easily closing it out as the Beacons. Also, when you face 8-9 run, you want to get 8-9. What was that? For the leadoff hitter steps up.
Galini slugs this one into the gap. Well, you're not getting number 8 as this rolls all the way to the wall. Who picks up Tyler Galini starts the inning with a leadoff double. The loss goes to
Tim
that was
Woods.
Absolutely. To 0-1.
And when you face 8-9, you want to get 8-9.
Busy stretch.
The leadoff hitter steps up.
Galini slugs this one into the gap. Well, you're not getting number 8 as this rolls all the way. Then a doubleheader here at home Saturday against Eastern Connecticut State.
These are competitive games. Roger Williams beat Eastern Connecticut State pretty bad on Monday 10-1 and then came back and lost pretty bad today against Tufts. So we'll see which version of the Hawks the Beacons see, and then Babson. The Beacons play them every season before the season begins in a scrimmage. So those 2 teams are very familiar. And, of course, Eastern Connecticut State last year won the LEC tournament on the Beacons home field, the first time the Warriors will have played here in the regular season. Chance for the Beacons to get a couple of big wins and look to improve upon their 3-1 conference mark.
All right, big thanks to our production crew, our crack staff here on one of the nicest days of the spring so far. The producers and my color commentary partner, Seth Orensky, directors Rachel Maslak and Alyssa Fugo, Kristen Embry, working instant replay, camera operators, Genna Prince, Emily Steinberg, Sarah Alenardo, and Eileen Shee. And I'm Bill Spalding saying so long. UMass Boston, a big win today, 5-1, and they moved to 13-7. Salem State falls to 12-12 for the entire crew. Wish you a happy evening. Join us again on Saturday on the Beacons Broadcast Network for UMass Boston Baseball, a noon start against Eastern Connecticut State. Good night, everybody.